Welcome to every single FNAF character. If this seems familiar, I've already done this type of video. You know how it is. This is actually my third time recording this. I scrapped my second recording because I added more slides. Time for 300 slides of every FNAF character. Starting with FNAF 1, the beginning of the franchise. These animatronics are not the first animatronics in the universe, but they're the first ones Scott created from Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Scott made Five Nights at Freddy's after he was told his characters in his previous games look creepy, specifically Chipper and Sons Limerico, right? Five Nights at Freddy's obviously have 5 nights with some extra nights on the side. You know, FNAF 1 has, I believe, the 6th night and then the 7th night being the custom night. But I don't think there's an 8th night that exists. Steel Wool games usually have either way less or way more because that's just the type of games they make. As the nights progress in each of these games, they usually be AI level, which means like how often their movement opportunities pass, it will increase to make it more difficult, you know, sort of simulating development and anger and all that bullshit. In this project, I will use overviews such as this one right here, just for broad topics, explain lore, you know, mechanics, dynamics, just so that way I don't have to say something over and over again for each animatronic. Although don't be worried, I will say the exact same thing for many animatronics. First, we'll just talk about the night guards. In many FNAF games, you play as a night watchman or a night guard. The only exclusions to this really are like FNAF 4, Help Wanted, Security Breach, and like everything past that really. But the original FNAF games, you're a night guard, or you're someone affiliated with the company at least in some way. You're not just a random person. But the night guards in most of the games are pretty mysterious, like just the player characters in general, because we don't really have any physical characteristics, and we're only given a name at most, but sometimes we don't even get that. But we do think Michael Afton is the night guard and player character in many of the games, and uses pseudonyms for his jobs to get them, as we see on the paychecks. But we'll talk about that later. But for now, let's start with Freddy Fazbear, the face of the entire game. He's the main antagonist, the face of Fazbear Entertainment. He's in every single game. In the first game, though, he laughs, which signifies he moves. He attacks one of the doors, the left if you power out, and the right if you're, you know, normal. He plays the Toreador March when he is about to kill you after the power goes out. As we've seen Help Wanted, he has a speaker in his stomach. I'm saying a lot, apologies. You also get stuffed into a Freddy suit after you die in FNAF 1 and also in FNAF 2, I believe. He is based off of Fredbear, theoretically, like in universe, which we'll talk about later. There's not much else to say about the original of Freddy Fazbear, but you will see him more later. Next we have Bonnie the Bunny, probably the most important character in the series besides Freddy himself. Scott Cawthon, fun fact, has been noted to have nightmares of Bonnie while developing this game, which means he must be the scariest, right? Bonnie is the most important besides Freddy, but it's debatable because he's based off of Spring Bonnie, which we will get into later. He is the most aggressive of the main 4, with his AI levels being usually higher than the rest in the first game, except for one of the nights where Chica's is higher because, I don't know, there just is. We'll get into that later. He also had his guitar copyrighted years after the games came out, so it was retroactively changed. This is also the same for future adaptations, such as Toy Bonnie. This Bonnie has no eyebrows, which will be made up for in future iterations. There is a Bonnie in every FNAF game, similar to Freddy. Bonnie goes down the left hallway and can be stopped by the door, just like Chica. Speaking of Chica, here she is. This is Chica. Sometimes with a cupcake, sometimes not, because she just drops it, but on the stage, she has a cupcake. She is the only animatronic, except Freddy, because Freddy actually does go into the kitchen, but they both go into the kitchen, and she bangs the pots and pans. Freddy does not bang pots and pans, I think. I could be wrong, though. They go to the right hallway instead of the left, and they go stop by the door like Bonnie. They stare at you through the window. Chica's in almost every FNAF game, but is in like Sister Location's code and stuff, instead of actually being physically present. And she's always hungry. and this is like brought to a climax sort of in future iterations, especially Security Breach. But we know she's hungry and she has "Let's Eat" written on her bib, and this bib clothing is seen in her appearances down the line. She's the only female, as I mentioned. We'll move on to the cupcake. So this is Carl. He's been named by Carl by the fans and appears in basically every game with Chica, as well as an Easter egg, just like in FNAF 3 there's the golden cupcake. We'll get into some other versions of the cupcake later down the line, but we'll see. He's never really a threat. He can jump scare you in FNAF 4 and Help Wanted, or at least some versions of him can. But in the movie, he actually does get a on-screen kill, and he does bite William Afton. He's very aggressive and evil. So yeah, I only included this slide for the cupcake as sort of like a foundation for all cupcakes. This could be a cupcake overview. He's also a pumpkin sometimes on Halloween-related updates or celebrations. So in FNAF 4 Halloween Edition, he's a pumpkin. On FNAF 1 on The Office, he's a pumpkin. He's a pumpkin sometimes. Now it's time for Fox the Pirate Fox. He's the only character with an animated movement on a camera. He runs down the left hallway. He is in every game, includes the main 4. He is really damaged in the first game, and we have not really seen a perfect FNAF era fixed Foxy, canonically in the games at least. We'll get into that later, very later. He's very jarring, moves erratically as seen in Help Wanted, and he's also a captain occasionally as seen in Help Wanted, but sometimes he actually isn't, as we see in Secret of the Mimic, where he's first mate, I believe. His jump scare in FNAF 1 led fans to theorize that he actually never intended to scare the player because his jump scare was just so mid. They thought he was actually just trying to save you or help you or some way. There's also a popular glitch where you kill Foxy by closing the door or opening the door and then flashing light on like the exact frame he tries to kill you. It's very interesting. And next we have Golden Freddy, which is, he's Golden Freddy. I won't go into super detail with Mr. Yellow Bear, which was his original name. He has 2 spirits inside of him, theoretically. He may have one. The lore is very confusing nowadays. But in FNAF 1, he had a very, very rare chance of appearing. And in Cam 2B, the poster were changed to signify his appearance. He also would just straight up jump scare you if you put 1987 in the customized screen. He looks very different and behaves much less rare in future depictions, such as Willow Golden Freddy, but it's just called Golden Freddy, so it's interesting. I'm going to split up Wither Golden Freddy with this Golden Freddy, so we'll see what happens. And I do think it's interesting that in the movie they combine the sort of looks of these two into Golden Freddy, which I think is pretty nice. Golden Freddy is like mentioned at least in every FNAF game in some way, and he's like a ghost version or like a suit version of a character named Fredbear, who I've mentioned before, and I will get into this. I will get into him eventually, just trust me. I'll make a lot of promises. But first, Endo 01. This is the original endoskeleton. They are in parts and service. They rarely look at the camera, but they usually just stand stationary. Every animatronic has an endoskeleton inside of them, except the suits, which are suits meant for people, but they sort of have their own spring-lock endoskeleton. It's interesting. The FNAF movie animatronic endoskeletons actually look very similar to Scott's design in-game, which is pretty cool. And this is what the animatronics think the player is and why they stuff the player in a suit. But it is possible that that was just a lie made by Fazbear Entertainment, so that way we would not sue them when we died. Speaking of when we died, upon game over, you are greeted with an image of Freddy in parts and service with the player's eyes popping out of the eye sockets. This shows what kills the player after being jump scared theoretically. Though whether they enter the suit alive or dead is kind of unknown. We don't know if when we are jump scared we were just knocked out or what. But what we do know is that we were most definitely dead inside that suit. And speaking of parts and service, there's also heads lighting the shelves. You've probably seen them before. They turn to look at the player as well as Endo from the same little Easter egg. And the only really notable thing about them is that obviously Bonnie and Freddy's heads are missing their hats and their ears. It's pretty interesting. One last mention for FNAF 1 is Sparky the Dog, which is one of the first hoaxes ever, where they are seen in parts and service on a camera. but they were like so important and like popular back in the day that Scott includes Sparky in the FNAF movie, as you can see up there. And also the diner was named Sparky's. I think it was spelled differently, but either way. Welcome to FNAF 2. Jeremy Fitzgerald is the night guard for majority of FNAF 2, not all of it, and he's moved to the day shift after surviving his 6 nights. He's heavily implied, however, to be the bite victim of the bite of 87. We don't know many details about this bite, especially not who did it, and also we're not fully convinced who died in it. But we think it was Jeremy. Could have been anyone who bit them though. But as for who replaces Jeremy, Fritz Smith is the night guard for the custom night. And he is another pseudonym for Michael Afton for him to be able to tamper with the animatronics. Both Fritz and Jeremy are actually names of some of the kids in the original Missing Children incident. If you're at all confused, I will go over this more later, but let me know in the comments if you want more information. I've done a lot of research, but I haven't done a lot. I'll let you know. But quickly, another overview of the toys and wizards. So, first, the toy animatronics, unlike their FNAF 1 counterparts, are plastic looking, they're shiny instead of fabric-y, and they're sort of cute. They have like rosy cheeks. It's assumed this like rebrand new version of them is to seem even more child-friendly than the previous location, or than the future location if this is a prequel, or their sister location if it's at the same time. Anyways, don't worry about it. They're toy animatronics. They're different than the originals. Speaking of different than the originals, the withered animatronics are also different than the FNAF 1 animatronics. We know this just because canonically the FNAF 2 takes place at like a different time, but also like design-wise the wizards look a lot different than the FNAF 1 ones. We don't know where they're from, we don't know what their purpose is, but they're theorized to either be from Fredbear's Family Diner, or they are prototypes as we see in the FNAF 2 movie. So, firstly we have Toy Freddy. He's a chubby little plastic version of Freddy, who is revealed to be a gamer in Ultimate Custom Night. And he acts similarly to the withered animatronics in this game, because he just appears in your office with the danger, instead of Bonnie and Chica who appear from the vents. Which, you know, it's kind of odd to say that he acts like the withered animatronics, but he kind of does, compared to the other toys. And in UCN, he's seen playing against Mr. Hugs in a video game, and he can't beat the game himself because he has fat chubby fingers, so he needs your help or he will kill you. He's easily fooled by the Freddy mask, even though he is Freddy, so it's kind of interesting. And he doesn't appear that often, but he does obviously appear in the FNAF 2 movie, voiced by Kellen Goff. Toy Bonnie here is the deadliest animatronic for FNAF 2's Max Mode, and Ultimate Custom, and not Ultimate Custom Night, just the Custom Night for FNAF 2, because he has a moving animation when he is being tricked by the mask. That takes up a lot of time that you should be using to wind up the music box. Bonnie comes from the right vent, and he is when he is given a voice in AR, he is perceived to be narcissistic, bratty, and like kind of just mean in future depictions. And he is only in a handful of games, but he's like Daco's biggest op, because Daco really sucks at FNAF 2's Max Mode. Better than me, because he actually beat it. Good for him. He actually has eyelashes and eyebrows, probably to make up for Bonnie's lack of eyebrows in the previous game. And he's voiced by Matt Pat in FNAF 2. We'll talk about Matt Pat in a minute. But first we have Toy Chica. Toy Chica attacks from the left vent and moves her beak. She loses her beak when she's aggressive, as you can see at the top there. But she obviously looks much cuter, much more kid-friendly with the beak on, so it's obviously a glitch of some sort. I believe the reason that her beak is off is because Scott did it by accident and was like, oh, it's kind of creepy, and kept it in the game because she thought it was pretty cool. The bib sort of rebrands as well, with it being Let's Party instead of Let's Eat, because, you know, they're not as big as they were, they're not as, like, cuddly, they're more, like, about partying and being cute, right? She only appears in a handful of games. All the toy animatronics are not as popular, really, as the original ones. She has her own version of the cupcake, being the toy cupcake, and she can use water hose in FNAF World. I was really thinking of things to put in here, because I really didn't want to talk about what the fans think of this character, so I'm just going to leave it at that and we'll move on. Toy Foxy, also Funtime Foxy, was an animatronic torn apart by children, and this torn apart, like, discarded piece of metal is now referred to as the Mangle.
Mangle notably has an extra endoskeleton head, which we don't understand why it's there, but it is. And Mangle can crawl on the ceiling as well as invents on their limbs. Mangle always is spouting radio nonsense, but can also trick the player by playing other audios, such as Balloon Boy's laugh or walking sounds. Mangle has appeared in many games after the debut. It's sort of like as a fan favorite. She has her own like little mini game the next game. God, I'm saying game a lot, I'm sorry. But when I asked about their gender, Scott said yes. So she may be creepy and ambiguous, but he is the biggest and best pile of wires in this fandom, at least for now. They usually are used with both pronouns in most of the depictions, so anything works. Here's Balloon Boy. They're a clown wooden puppet doll animatronic thing that cannot actually kill the player in FNAF 2. Instead, they stop the player from using their flashlight. But Balloon Boy is actually a bit more dangerous in some other depictions. He only moves when he laughs though. He's actually rarely seen on the cameras in FNAF 2, but he's seen in at least 2 of them and in the office. He comes to the left vent. He can be sent away with the Freddy mask, and the same laugh is reused in FNAF 3 to lure Springtrap away with the audio lure. More on him later. He also is my favorite part of the FNAF movie, being a recurring jump scare bit that even scares Corey Kenshin in the post-credit scene in the taxi, which I think is pretty neat. Little spoiler, but I still think it's pretty cool. Here's JJ, aka Balloon Girl. I think she's barely real. I honestly thought she was a hoax for a very long time, but obviously she's been brought back ever since. I like how I just really made this part up because I feel like people knew she was real. I just didn't know because I'm an idiot. But in FNAF 2, she only appears under the desk. She's very hard to spot, but she's a purple recolor of Balloon Boy, so that's why she was referred to as Balloon Girl. Scott included her in other games like FNAF World and UCN, where she goes by JJ. In UCN, she actually has similar mechanics to Balloon Boy, like opening and closing doors, or I believe just disabling your ability to close doors altogether. And she's a party character in FNAF World. And she can be closed by stopping the far right vent in UCN. Here is the marionette, aka the puppet. The puppet will force the player to wind their music box on a specific camera, the prize corner, and if the music box goes all the way down, the puppet will spawn. So now the puppet actually does work like a normal animatronic, like any of the toys or the wizards. But their movement opportunity timer is 5 times as quickly. It moves 5 times as fast. They will run straight towards you. They're pretty interesting. They're kind of in the same pose most of the time, as if they're a puppet and can't really move much. They can cause hallucinations and stuff. They appear in many games. They appear in FNAF 3 even, briefly being the same version of themselves as seen here, which we'll get into later. They actually spawn Phantom Puppet when you stare at them. They are the one who helped the spirits get their happiest day. And this thing is possessed by Charlie, Henry Emily's daughter, and Henry Emily is one of the 2 fast runners. He will talk more about the lore later, but Puppet was also used for security, stuff like that. It was very advanced. We'll talk about it later. Now, Withered Freddy. Freddy is much bulkier, his fur is a lot darker, different colors, so this is like just the main thing pointing towards all the Withered animatronics being different. But if you look at other designs, it also is very different, but Freddy's is the most noticeable, I would say, considering how little of him is missing. It's pretty obvious to point out the differences. He can be deterred by the mask, which is very interesting because it's a Freddy mask, doesn't make sense, but still. He's the least destroyed Withered animatronic, I think, so that's pretty nice. And he's still incredibly old and broken, and he's like usually hunched over. And his little reaching animation that he does when he's in the office, he actually does that in FNAF 2's movie as well, which I think is pretty cool. Next we have Withered Bonnie, which is a fan favorite Withered. He is missing his left arm and the upper part of his face, as well as his hand and feet, or at least the casing for his hand and feet. He's always standing in this like signature pose you see in the top right here, and he can also be deterred by the mask after entering through the left vent this time. An image circulated that there was a Withered Bonnie toilet, and he's supposed to FNAF World theme park, yet this was never reality. I actually don't know how they got that picture, but it still is a really cool picture in my eyes. I really think it's funny to call him Toilet Bonnie. Next we have Withered Chica. Chica's jaw is broken, as well as her 2 hands missing. Hence she is the second most broken Withered. She likes to T-pose with her arms outstretched, but she never usually puts them in front of herself. I don't know what I'm talking about. She does put her arms away or in front of herself when she crawls through vents, as you can see in her vent render as well as in UCN. She is the same bib as normal Chica, but she is much larger than normal Chica. At least we think she is. It looks like she is. Which is why she gets stuck in the vent in UCN. And she can actually be deterred by the mask still, much like everyone else, except for Withered Foxy, who is the only animatronic not to be fooled by the mask, besides the puppet, and instead is deterred by the flashlight, need to be flashed 9 times, I believe. He is missing from UCN, same as Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy is also missing from UCN. He only appears, I believe, in the parts and service camera in the main hall of the office in FNAF 2. He also is the Foxy that is used in the Foxy.exe minigame in FNAF World, which actually gives him a voice for the first time, which is really nice. And since Foxy has always been broken, I find it very interesting that Withered Foxy kind of has some of like Foxy's holes missing, but has new holes. So obviously, like, his skull has a giant chunk taken out of it. So like, I still think he's like the second least destroyed Withered animatronic, with Chica being the third most destroyed and Bonnie being the fourth most destroyed. But it is cool that his hook is like way bigger, I think, and way more pointy. Now we're back to Golden Freddy, or Withered Golden Freddy, as this version's called. With, this version's missing an ear, has a lot more wires poking out of him. He has like a similar microphone, but it's like a bit bigger. He also appears as a floating head in the hallway. He can be deterred by the mask, obviously. When you pull down your camera, he'll be sitting there, but you can deter him with the mask. And I say this like version of Golden Freddy is actually like a bit more popular, since he appears in UCN as a selectable character and not just a cutscene, which Yellow Bear does only exist in a cutscene in UCN. But yeah, that's about all I can say for Golden Freddy, at least in FNAF 2. We'll talk about this character a wee bit more, but they'll be going by a different name. First though, let's talk about Paper Pals. So the original appearance of FNAF 2 led these pals to be brought in like many future depictions. Like, they're in the box in FNAF 3 and they're like got remade for the more modern games. Anyways, they are harmless. They just appear in FNAF 2 in your office, but only when you're playing the custom night, because their AI value actually is set to a 1% chance to spawn whenever you're in the custom night, because otherwise it's set to 0. They are in FNAF World, but are kind of useless. They're not very useful. But they do like appear as an Easter egg or collectible in many places, and we never truly know what they are meant to represent. We know that it represents a Freddy, a Bonnie, a human, and the new ones represent a human, a hippo, and then a something else. A little silly guy, I guess. But yeah, they kind of don't know much about them. Here we have Shadow Freddy, my boy. So, Shadow Freddy appears only in the parts and service camera in FNAF 2. However, he is seen in many other games, such as FNAF 3 at the bottom right there, where you can see he appears in your office occasionally, as well as like some mini games. He would have used the metal run dot wave mechanic, which means that when you stare at him for 0.5 seconds, he will disappear and play a noise. But instead of disappearing, he just crashes your game. And due to his FNAF 3 minigame appearance, fans have created a sort of fan-made, fan-in version of him called Purple Freddy right here, which is very heavily associated with Shadow Freddy, but technically is not canon. It could be, I suppose. This could be a withered version of this character, but I don't believe this version of Shadow Freddy is actually in any game. This version though does lead their animatronics in the FNAF 3 minigame to their death by Purple. So we actually don't know what Shadow Freddy's deal is, really. Speaking of shadows, we have Shadow Bonnie, or RWQFSFASXC, or RXQ. RXQ was first seen in FNAF 2. He looks similar to Toy Bonnie, but his teeth are a bit different, so we know for a fact that he's not Toy Bonnie. But in FNAF World, he gets his new name, which is RXQ. He also appears in FNAF 3 as a sprite, and as you can see on the top right there. It's sort of like a fan favorite. He's a bit more popular, I think, than Shadow Freddy. They appear very glitchy in like FNAF World, and also their other depictions, such as their minigame and their AR debut even. In Ultimate Custom Night, actually, they can be summoned by the DD or XOR, which we'll get into later. And when they are in your office will become pitch black, so you can't tell if your doors are open. You can use your flashlight, but it won't help that much. Who cares about FNAF AR? But they are in there. People were pretty hyped about that back in the day. FNAF AR is dead, so it doesn't matter, but we'll still talk about it eventually. Here's Endo 02. This is the second endoskeleton appearance in the series, and it's a rare Easter egg, only appearing in a few cameras, such as the prize corner in the right vent. This is the other character who would have used the metal run.wave mechanic, disappearing after being stared at for 0.5 seconds. They've appeared in FNAF 2, FNAF World, FNAF AR, I think, and possibly more recent games. They might have appeared in Help Wanted. They might have appeared in Help Wanted 2. I wouldn't know. All I know is that they have appeared in at least 2 games, maybe 3, maybe more. I'm gonna take a small break here. I need to drink some water, but I'm here. 2017's lit establishment, FNAF Freddy's 3. Now, Fazbear Frights. While Fazbear Entertainment was gone, possibly breaking apart, possibly, going bankrupt, fans of the original restaurant saw an opportunity to create a horror experience using salvaged props from original locations. So they went and they stole a bunch of shit. Obviously, they were doing it mostly for the money. I doubt many of them actually cared, but some of them did, as we'll see. But this led to this glorified haunted house to have Springtrap, because they found one, a real one. And the owners are very stupid because they didn't notice an actual corpse inside of their rabbit, but I guess they're a bit too lenient. Their building also has constant ventilation errors and horrible infrastructure, since it got burned down so easily. But at the end of the game, we never really hear about the owners of this attraction again. So we don't know what their deal is. I'm assuming Fazbear either killed them or they straight up went bankrupt. So let's talk about Phone Dude. This is one of the employees at Fazbear Frights, or at least upper management, maybe just another day shift guy. We don't know, but he makes a very brief appearance. He's only in the first night and in the second night a little bit. He doesn't really appear again. He's much less serious than Phone Guy, hence why he's called Phone Dude instead, and he's still voiced by Scott Cawthon. Phone Guy is also voiced by Scott Cawthon. We'll talk about him later. I don't know if I actually talked about him yet. Phone Dude is not the owner. Alright, he's not the owner of Fazbear Frights. He's just an employee or friend of the owner. He is a fan of Freddy's, at least. We do know that, because he's really excited when he mentions finding a real animatronic to bring on night 2. Speaking of things that the Phone Dude says, we know very little about the player character in FNAF 3. We still assume it's Michael, but we don't even have like a pseudonym for him, which is very interesting. But we do know one thing: the player character was here longer than we get to play. The player character was there for an entire week before the game takes place. In the books, he is given the name Hudson, but since he dies at the end of the book, we don't know if that's canon or not to the games. So he's still Michael, despite the lack of evidence. The correlations between the Night Guards in the previous games and the fact that Michael has unfinished business kind of stacks up, so we think it's Michael. So phantom animatronics are hallucinations that the player experiences, which is why their jump scares don't actually kill the player. We assume that the player character in FNAF 3 have been in both FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 locations, but for some reason they know what the animatronics look like when they are burned, as all the phantoms are notably burned. So that's more evidence suggesting the Michael Afton theory, which we'll talk about later. The phantoms appear like yellowish, black, or green, as if they're like rotting or moldy or something, but mostly burned. Phantoms do, however, mess with the maintenance, causing audio and ventilation errors, meaning something is like physically there messing with the player. even if the animatronics and the jump scares are hallucinations, there is a spirit or something doing evil. Speaking of evil, we have William Afton's decaying corpse inside of a spring-locked bunny suit, forever trapped. Due to the animatronic components, the audio lures force Springtrap to go wherever he thinks children are present, so when you press the audio lure on a camera, he will have to go there, at least if he hears it. He's surprisingly agile, yet obviously he just stands still most of the time, preferring to not move since he's in constant pain. His green suit's rotted with some flesh being able to be seen from the outside. He's actually one of the most popular characters in the series, as he is even brought into Dead by Daylight as the attraction, or the animatronic, I forget. Either way, he has the best voice lines in the series, besides the connection terminated speech, in my opinion. We'll talk about all of that later. However, we have Phantom Freddy first, over the Phantoms. Phantom Freddy walks past their window in front of the office in FNAF 3, and if you stare at it for too long, he causes a ventilation error. Freddy can be ignored if you have the camera maintenance panel up, and notably, he is one of the few Phantoms brought into UCN. Consider how unique they behave. I believe 2 of the Phantoms aren't brought into UCN, but actually most of them are, which is interesting. He's missing one of the legs, which is why he walks the way he does. He's also slightly burned. In Help Wanted, he got a redesign since Steel Wool at the time couldn't be bothered to make the Wizard animatronics, of which his design is based off of. To do the same thing to another one of them, we will talk about both those designs in a future slide. Now we have Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy can spawn on multiple different cameras, and if you stare at him too long or drop the camera while it's on him, it causes a ventilation error and he jump scares you. He's just charred to bits, as you can see in his FNAF 3 render. In his other renders, he looks a bit more green, but he's just completely like black almost in his FNAF 3 ones. He's the second of the 3A Phantoms brought to UCN. He has lost his balloon and sign, which he actually just like never lost in FNAF 2, except for when he was crawling in the vents. And when he jump scares you, you can see his like face contort and like his jaw unhinged, which is very interesting. Next we have Phantom Chica, who only spawns on one room on an arcade machine screen, and she acts very similar to Balloon Boy, though when you stare at her, she may be slightly more aggressive since she's only on one camera. Phantom Chica's FNAF World loading screen tells the player to not call her a watermelon. As you can clearly see, her burn marks sort of make it look like she's a watermelon, so that's what it was referencing. She's the only Phantom from FNAF 1, like in FNAF 3 at least. In Help Wanted, it's a bit odd since the other ones are, but Chica is FNAF 1 Chica, but Phantomized, which is interesting. Everyone else is from FNAF 2. Like Phantom Foxy here, who stands on the left side of the room, and once you turn your camera and make eye contact, he jump scares you, ventilation error. He will only appear if you're not looking at the left side of the room, unless you're on mobile mode, where he just says fuck you and appears anyways. Once he spawns, he doesn't really go away, unless you are like turned towards him and then turn away really quickly. It's kind of difficult to do, but you can. He actually is missing his hook, which makes him like not very piratey, because he's missing his entire like right arm. And he only has burns on the front of him, at least that we can tell, but we actually can't see the back of him. Obviously he probably does have more burns. In Help Wanted, he got a redesign since Steel Wool didn't design a withered animatronics yet. But they did design them eventually. They just didn't update the models ever. And now there's Phantom Wool. This Phantom is brought into UCN as well. They are identical to Phantom Chica, but with a different camera. And upon a successful attack, instead of causing a ventilation error, she actually just stays around for a while, making annoying radio static, and causes an audio error. She only spawns in the camera with the Foxy mask, and will poke her head outside the office window instead of jump scaring them. Now you have Phantom Puppet. You see that up there? Phantom Puppet spawns in a single camera and gives you very little time to react, so honestly it's not worth it even staring at this camera for like a second, because you just have no time to react. And then once you stare at them for like a half second, they just block your entire screen and inputs for like 10 seconds, and they play like a loud annoying noise while doing so. They're pretty burnt when they jump scare you, but on the cameras you can see that they're like perfectly fine, which means that something else is here, aka the original puppet spirit is here along with you. Speaking of spirits, here's the Crying Child's ghost. The Crying Child, or Crying Children, are ghosts of Afton's victims, which we can see they're like crying, they're sad, they died. They appear throughout the series as a reminder of what Afton did. Even versions of the crying child appeared in FNAF 1 on posters, but I didn't show them. But they bear resemblance both to the puppet with the tear streaks and Afton's younger son, who also cried a lot. The 5 spirits in the minigame are assumed to be the souls of Freddy, Foxy, Bonnie Chica, and Golden Freddy, or the puppet, as the player character. A quick mention is the Purple Man animatronic. We'll get into Purple Man a lot more later, but during the FNAF 2 and FNAF 3 era, a hoax appeared with an animatronic version of the purple guy. This animatronic acted similar to Golden Freddy or Springtrap, depending on which game it was. There's even a few fan-made lore snippets with these iterations of the Purple Man. There's the regular iteration, the Purple Trap iteration. At the time, it wasn't a horrible theory that Purple Man was some animatronic, but obviously these were hoaxes, despite some of them being higher effort and popular. The bottom one definitely was a part of my childhood, but I didn't know much about Purple Trap. I definitely knew more about the original Purple Man animatronic. Now we're on to FNAF 4 Nightmarish Scares. So, the Nightmare animatronics, or illusion discs. So originally, fans created the dream theory in FNAF 4, as it was going to be the final FNAF game, and the nightmares, as well as all other games, were just the dreams player had experienced after being bitten in the head by Fredbear. This was canon. I believe that Scott retconned this after he released FNAF World. So now we believe the Nightmare animatronics are actually created by illusion discs, which we learn about in the books, that are devices that produce a sound or a, what's the word? A decibel, that makes humans imagine animatronics. It messes with the imagination. It isn't real. But Afton created these discs for his various ideas and purposes, including to torment his son Michael with nightmare animatronics and scare him into submission. We'll talk about this a bit later. I keep saying that, but you just gotta believe me, man. I have 300 slides in this, right? First, we have Nightmare Freddy. Freddy can only attack once all his Freddles spawn on the bed. I believe 3 will spawn, and you have a very little bit of time where he will spawn and kill you, just instantly. He has holes in his body and sharp teeth and claws, similar to every Nightmare animatronic. Freddy also appears in UCN, where his mechanic remains largely the same. By the way, this teaser image for the longest time messed with my head because I have horrible depth perception. I couldn't tell that his head was down slightly. I couldn't tell he was bowing his head a little bit because I thought this was just his head face on. I thought he was a short head here and they made it longer. I don't get it. I guess they kind of did because his mouth's open here, isn't it? Whatever. Besides the point. Maybe I can tell what you're wondering. You're wondering what the hell a Freddle is. Well, here's what a Freddle is. Freddles were actually named by the fans. They appear on the bed behind the player. They make noises that will steadily grow louder with each Freddle that's added. They spawn Nightmare Freddy once all 3 are there and you wait too long to flash them. They are scared away by the light. They just jump off the bed really quickly. And likely they were the inspiration for future plush-like enemies, such as plush babies. We'll talk about another plush enemy in this game very shortly, but they actually remain unchanged in the Halloween edition, along with Nightmare Freddy. Nightmare Bonnie attacks from the left hallway, like the original game, and are either scared off by the flashlight or closed door, depending on where he is. His right eye is kind of very exposed, and his stomach's sort of ripped open, as well as his left foot being broken. Similar to the classic and Withered Bonnie, he has been seen both as purple and blue, and in UCN he's one of the 3 animatronics that can be stopped by buying their plushie. Chica attacks in the right hallway, like in FNAF 1. They can be scared off, similarly to Nightmare Bonnie. She uses her cupcake actually to attack instead when the player is in the middle of the room, instead of her usual jump scare, which may have inspired Funtime Freddy's use of Bon Bon in the next game, which is quite interesting. And she actually still has her Let's Eat bib, despite it being really ripped. And she's well known for killing Markiplier at 5 a.m. during night 1. And I like to mention how these designs are quite interesting. From her FNAF, I get FNAF World is sort of obviously not canon, very yeah, but they really did not try at all. Anyways, we have Nightmare Foxy. Nightmare Foxy acts very similarly to the other 2 animatronics down the hall, but instead of killing you when he gets to the door, he enters your closet, and you have to run up to the closet and hold your flashlight on him, and then close the door to make him go away, or he will kill you. And he technically has a jump scare that doesn't kill you, because when you flash him, he'll go rawr, and then he will, just wait a second before killing you, so you can close the door in time. And some depictions, aka just this one teaser image, give him a long metal tongue, and it is absent in every single other appearance, unfortunately. I think it would have been sick. Now we're here at Nightmare Fredbear. This is the first Fredbear that we talk about. Fredbear here will delete the other Nightmare animatronics in the final night, I think at 3 or 4 a.m. I believe. And he will actually appear in any of the 4 areas the player can access when he laughs. He teleports, right? He can actually fake laugh too, so sometimes he teleports, sometimes he doesn't. And this is like the first Fredbear design you get to see in game, besides the 8-bit one, really. And his mouth chest is like super important to the lore because of the Bite of 83 that we find out about in FNAF 4. And surprisingly, there's another bear that like acts more important than him, but no one cares about, and that is Nightmare. So he's Nightmare Freddy but black, and his accessories that used to be purple with Nightmare Fredbear are yellow now for some reason, and his body is transparent for some reason, and he has a PNG jump scare similar to Golden Freddy, which makes it act like he's important, but like he's not really important. He has the voice lines in UCN. He's like, I don't know, he's just another illusion disc probably, but like some people thought he's like death himself. Like, I don't know. He is sadistic in nature and relishes killing the player, according to like the UCN wiki from what I read, but that's all I have for him. Now here's another plush character. We have Plushtrap. He's a toy version of Springtrap. He's seen in a minigame called Fun with Plushtrap, where you have to stop him on a little white X, and you get to skip the first 2 hours of the night, I believe. He's also in the books, but no one reads those. Like there's like Placer Plushtrap and Baby Plushtrap, and we'll talk about the books eventually. But that's all you have to know is that there's for some reason there's a toy version of Springtrap or of Spring Bonnie. Either way, he's evil. Now let's talk about the recolors. Jacko Bonnie replaces Nightmare Bonnie in the Halloween edition. There's also Jacko Chica, which is the next slide, but they also, both of them appear in FNAF World as Halloween characters that you unlock in minigames, and he actually returns with Jacko Chica in the DLC Dreadbear for Help Wanted. There's not much to talk about with Jacko Bonnie. He can use Slasher, I guess, in FNAF World. That's something to mention, but Jacko Chica has a bit more. So she's a recolor of Chica, same gameplay-wise, but she actually does appear in UCN with her own new mechanic, where if the office temperature gets too high, she spawns in both doors, and you have to close them to get her to go away, and you have to drop the temperature or she'll not go away, I think. And she's given a voice when she kills you. She like is very distorted with like heat, and she like has fire-related puns when she kills you. And obviously her little cupcake is a jack-o'-lantern instead, which is pretty nice. Now we have Nightmare Mangle takes the place of Foxy in Halloween Edition. They no longer go on the ceiling. Instead, they just, run around, sort of. Their second head resembles a skull because, the Nightmare endoskeleton sort of resembles a skull for some reason. In UCN, one of the only animatronics that can be stopped by buying a plush. That's the second now. We've done over 2 of them. And they still make radiostatic sounds, just like Mangle. That's about it. They're not really canon, I don't think. Neither is Nightmare here, but they might be actually. Nightmare might be canon, now that I think about it, because he appears everywhere. He's sort of like a virus now, but it's a horrible name. I hate Nightmare's name, but he replaces Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare in FNAF 4 Halloween Edition. He's got a PNG jump scare, just like Nightmare. He appears the unique mechanics in UCN, where if the cursor is over him for too long, he will jump scare you. He also appears in Help Wanted, spreading tentacles that go under your bed, through the floor, through the ceiling, that the player can flash with a flashlight as he approaches you down the hallway. You need to close the door on him. But he appears. He's got some more to it. But oh, hi. I see you later. Now we have Nightmare Balloon Boy. So they replace Plushtrap actually. And once beaten, they give the player, I believe, 3 hours instead of 2 hours. They do not give them cheats. I should change that, but I haven't. But the cheats in FNAF 4 do let you see where the animatronics are on the map. I feel like maybe he gives you those. I don't remember. It's been so long. since last listened to my song. I'm terrified. But anyways, he appears in UCN where if he's sitting down and the flashlight is on him, he will kill you. But if he's standing up, you have to put the flashlight on him, otherwise he will kill you. He also has voice lines, usually about eating the player. Just a bite-sized morsel. Now you have the toys from FNAF 4. These toys, surprisingly, were a major part of theories and conspiracies, but like they are basically relevant now. People really try to give these meaning because on the floor of the player's room lies a purple robot, a caterpillar, and a phone with eyes and a mouth. There's also a purple fan, but like there's a fan in every FNAF game, so that's probably the reason why it's there. It's just to keep that continuity. The other toys did garner some interest for like references to Dream Theory, the purple guy with the toy robot, or phone guy with the phone with the mouth, and maybe future characters or past references. But it's kind of hard. You know, they're there. It's important not to forget about the toys. We're gonna do a slight detour. It's still technically FNAF 4. Welcome to Fredbear. So, Fredbear makes his main debut FNAF 4, maybe FNAF 3 even, as a sprite, right? He does appear enough sprite in FNAF 3, but FNAF 4 you get to see him a lot more. But he gets a more official design in FNAF World, and he is cemented finally in UCN with a actual FNAF design. But Fredbear bit the crying child in the head, a bite of 83, which kind of sort of caused Afton to go on his killing spree, or at least put into motion the actions that would cause it eventually. Fredbear is often believed to be associated with the vengeful spirit, since he mocks the player in distorted voices once he kills them in UCN. Fredbear is mentioned or seen in minigames, but he hasn't really appeared in office gameplay. He does jump scare you, but it doesn't count as office gameplay. You summon Fredbear by killing Withered Golden Freddy with a death coin in UCN, by the way. Should have mentioned that. And the Crying Child had a Fredbear plushie that spoke to him. Would you like to hear more about him? This is Psychic Friend Fredbear. He's there. He's here. He's everywhere. Who are you gonna call? Psychic Friend Fredbear, the Crying Child's best friend. Either a spirit, imaginary being, or a device William used to look after his son. He was always there, always watching, always supportive. While only appearing in the FNAF 4 minigames, they do make a brief appearance in Sister Location's office section. This brief appearance actually is a major part of the lore, since he's seen with a little microphone radio thing, right? They think that Afton was down here talking through the radio, and the radio came through the Psychic Friend Fredbear, which is why it was talking to the child at all. It's also the last voice that the Crying Child hears, but the slight difference of color in the text sent MatPat and other theorists in a frenzy, because very slightly different text color, very slightly, just throw you off. Now, there's actually an original Fredbear, at least according to game theory and some posters. Because in Security Breach, we get a poster called Fredbear's Sing and Show. Fredbear wasn't always an animatronic, we think, but he also might have existed before being a mascot costume even. So the original Fredbear was a real bear, theoretically, who would sing or just make noises when a showman would tell him to as a trick for an audience. Fazbear Entertainment probably wasn't around during this time, it was probably made later, but the show may be stuck with one of the founders, leading them to create this bear in the future as a mascot suit. It's unclear who it was or what the exact story is, but we do know that Fredbear's Sing and Show is not an animatronic thing. So it's got to be a real bear, and it's too old for it to have been William or Henry as adults, so it was probably a random person's show that they just stole. But now I'll talk about Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie is the suit that Afton liked to wear, and he was on stage besides Fredbear most of the time. Spring Bonnie has multiple renders and versions, including the Yellow Rabbit from the FNAF movie, which is sort of my favorite, I think. And just so we're clear, Springlock suits are working animatronics that can actually be turned off and used as human mascot costumes by pushing the spring locks away. But if the spring locks are enabled when someone's inside of them, Springtrap can tell you what happens next. Alright, more water. So a quick honorable mention is the spring animatronics, actually. So the existence of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie made people back in the day imagine what are other spring animatronics look like, you know? What would they look like? So they imagined older versions of the cast, and they imagined like other Springlock suits, you know? Obviously there wasn't a Spring Freddy or Spring Foxy or Spring Chica in the canon lore. But this didn't stop many fan games and fan art and renders and games and drawings to be created. I like most of them. These are really cool designs. The main traits include yellow coloration, purple accents, black accessories sometimes, and of course spring locks inside of them, as well as more robotic movements, more, weird things. I think my favorite render has got to be this stupid fucking Scrap Trap design, trying to rationalize Scrap Trap's design. That's so funny to me. Here we're in sister location. Yes, I forgot FNAF World. Yes, we're moving past it really quickly. We will talk about it in a bit. I just didn't want to. I did it out of order. We'll talk about Afton Robotics first. So there was Fazbear Entertainment, right? But William Afton needed another company for its experiments in sister location, so that way Henry wouldn't get wise. So he created his own company to create this tech secretly, to not tip off his business partner, or even the police. Afton Robotics likely was destroyed along with Afton shortly after Afton's disappearance, aka death. And while Afton Robotics was more sinister than Fazbear Entertainment, that doesn't make Fazbear Entertainment any less horrible and corrupt. In fact, people think maybe they only got worse once Afton Robotics went under, almost like Fazbear sort of incorporated whatever was left of it once Henry was gone. Anyways, moving on. We have Hand Unit. Hand Unit is a voice that blasts over the intercom sister location, giving you your tasks for the night and leading the way. He makes appearances in future games, and the voice actor is used in a variety of ways and scenarios throughout the franchise, being the narrator in Pizza Sim and the radio dispatch in Secret of the Mimic. I love this voice actor. I forgot to mention, Afton Robotics is the reason sister location exists. They created the entire compound. It's all a cover-up. Go watch a lore video if you want to dive deeper in Afton Robotics, okay? But first, let's talk about Funtime animatronic designs, right? The overview. Funtimes were specifically created by William to be able to lure children close to them and snatch them to capture them for experiments. The animatronics have space inside of them, as we could see in Funtime Freddy's blueprints, to store a child, and some have devices such as Baby to force them inside, which we'll talk about in a minute. Each Funtime also has a speaker to mimic voices, as well as project their own voice, maybe being illusion discs, as we see in the books. They have faceplates which can contort, open, and close, as we see in the books, maybe changing their size. And these animatronics were actually pretty dang old. But they probably weren't before Fredbear's Family Diner. So definitely some of them are newer than others. I don't know why I put that they were before Fredbear's Family Diner. I really did not I did not think most of this through when I wrote it down. I apologize. I'm going too quickly. But first we have Circus Baby. Baby is a large animatronic built for Afton's daughter, Elizabeth. Baby guides you throughout the game, quote-unquote saving your life until she betrays you in the scooper room. She also has a mini-game in which upon full completion, when you go back to the start, it shows Baby accidentally scooping Elizabeth into her, killing her instantly. Her eyes before this are blue, but as you see in-game, her eyes are green, which means that Elizabeth is possessing Baby. In Ultimate Custom Night, she is the final animatronic that requires a plushie to stop her. You can buy plushies for, I believe, 20 Faz coins in the prize corner camera, but you can also just stall all of them by being on the hallway cam, because UCN is really easy to break. She also appears in the FNAF 4 bedroom in a minigame in Help Wanted, where you have to hide from her, which probably has some lore significance, but I didn't dive too deep into it. She also is, obviously the reason plush babies exist. I don't know really much about them. What I really don't know about is Biddy Babs. Also Electro Bab is here. But Biddy Babs are gross little children-like robots that hang out with Baby, and they will try to open up your hiding spot in sister location to kill you and peek through holes, right? In the custom night, there's another version of Biddy Bab called Electro Bab, who is very similar, except they have yellow eyes. Electro Bab will start draining your power until you stop him on the cameras by zapping him. Now, Ballora is a ballerina with closed eyes, making her effectively blind, but she has very good hearing, meaning you have to move carefully and not run into her or she will catch you. Afton made her specifically to resemble his wife, that he either lost or ignored until she left him. We know this through Ballora's dialogue in UCN. And Valora usually moves by spinning around and kicking, as we see in Help Wanted 2. But she can also crawl through the vents to get to the player. It's pretty interesting. Next we have the mini arenas. They're small yet deadly doll-like animatronics that hang out with Valora. They usually crawl on the player to either block their screen or attempting to kill the player while they wear a string lock suit. They look similar to armature dolls used by artists. And it's just kind of strange that both Valora and Baby have little versions of themselves that resemble children. I don't know what the significance is, but it is quite interesting to me. Now, what about Mini Arenas 2, you might be wondering. So, I didn't want to type anything about them, so here's just a little segment from the official Sister Location wiki. In the custom night, 2 versions of Mini Arena. The first Mini Arena appears on Camo 6 in groups of 3, and they will drain the player's oxygen by tampering with the canisters, and the player can stop them by shocking them, in which case they disintegrate. They periodically respawn and drain the player's oxygen throughout the night. The second version, I already mentioned, they cover the screen and impede the vision of the office, and they laugh, making it difficult to hear audio cues, and 5 can appear at most. Yeah. Funtime Foxy is much more feminine. However, he has a booming announcer voice, as shown in UCN. He's motion activated, and the player must sneak past him in the dark. He also loves performing, and in UCN will kill the player if they do not attend his performances on the hour. He also will force jump scare on the player in Sister Location when ending one of the nights, going straight into the next night, not giving the player a chance to go to the menu. When they jump scare him, the player wakes up in the spring lock suit section, which is a really hated night by most people in the community. Funtime Foxy also does actually appear first in FNAF World, which we'll talk about later, with a completely different design, which maybe was a sort of message or sort of teaser of the next game. Speaking of teasers of the next game, Lolbit's a recolor of Funtime Foxy. They have no physical appearance in Sister Location, but they only appear in the monitors, making a loud noise, blocking your screen even. You need to type LOL on your keyboard to let them go. And it probably isn't a she, they're probably like non-binary, but we don't care, don't worry about it. They are robots, so it doesn't really matter. But their first appearance was as the shopkeeper for Bites in FNAF World. So you actually see Lolbit before you even see Funtime Foxy. We'll talk about them in a bit. But first we have Funtime Freddy. Freddy actually in this game was supposed to be German, the voice actor. But instead, Scott decided an annoying voice would be fine. So Kellen Goff voices Funtime Freddy, and since then he has voiced a lot of characters in the series. I love Kellen Goff. I'm going to leave it at that because I could gush over that guy forever. Freddy is very aggressive to movement. He will calm down if Bonbon tells him to, unless the player calms him down too many times. And he uses Bonbon as a projectile to kill the player in the custom night. And you can block the door by listening to directional audio. In his little section, he also will jump scare you if you shock him in the custom night. But in his main story section of the game, he only kills you on 2-second intervals, so it's completely possible to complete the entire section without ever using Bonbon. Speaking of Bonbon, they can be used by the player to calm down Funtime Freddy, but however, they will try to actually kill the player in the parts and service section. They will run around and will, if they're not deactivated by pressing the nose, they will jump scare the player, somehow killing them. They are a hand puppet, but they can somehow be detached, and I don't know how they can move without legs. That not really ever is explained, but yeah. You know what else can move without legs? Bonnet. It's a pink version of Bonbon. They use the same laugh, even. They only appear in the custom night, and they sprint right across the office. And they will kill the player if they reach the end. However, it's very easy to stop her. Just click her nose. It's that easy. And both these little hand puppets appear together in Whack-A-Mole and Help Wanted 2. It's pretty neat. They usually appear together. However, Funtime Freddy is gone in UCN, but Bonnet is in UCN. So Bonbon is missing, but Bonnet is actually there. So Bonnet is actually in more appearances now that I think about it. Here's Ennard. It's a play on the word Ennard. And he's comprised of all the Funtime animatronics together. He is the final antagonist. He scoops the player and uses their body by slithering inside of it to escape. The player's Michael Aston. We'll talk about it later. Maybe. Ennard also wears a mask that actually hangs above the player, sort of foreboding what is going to happen, because it disappears that night. We have no clue what that mask is from. We don't know who that animatronic is. It just kind of exists. He can actually talk when people are in control of him. Otherwise, he just kind of squeaks. But Baby is sort of the pilot for Ennard specifically. Yendo is believed to be an endoskeleton of Funtime Freddy and acts similarly to Golden Freddy during Sister Location's custom night. He will randomly appear if the camera is put up, and will go away if the camera is raised a second time. He makes very few appearances throughout the series, though he is in Help Wanted. He's got yellow eyes. He's pretty cool. I like Yendo. Next, you have the Scooper. So it's not maybe a character, but it's like a robotic machine thing you meet in the Sister Location story. It's like designed to dismantle animatronics, you know? Oh, it's designed to get remnant. Right. So the player will go around deactivating animatronics, say in the scooping room, they get scooped, which is not what it's mainly for. The animatronics use it so that way they can sort of get all their parts out and then scoop the player, so that way they can crawl into the player and control them, as we see here. But it probably is more likely to use to scoop out the remnant for experiments, because remnant is sort of, it's weird. It's weird what remnant is. I won't explain remnant in this slideshow, I don't think. So the Funtime spring lock suit, in night 4, the player wakes up inside of it, and they have to crank the spring locks on the sides as many arenas crawl closer. So if you don't crank it enough, it crushes you. We have no idea what this suit is, who it is, what it is. It's just assumed to be an extra animatronic. It could maybe be Funtime Chica. However, this technology being a spring lock suit means that the game takes place at least around the same time as Fredbear's, as it has spring lock suits, right? It does beg the question, what characters are spring lock suits? I think it's very interesting to go into that detail, because I think many characters in the series actually could be suits that we just don't think about that often. But anyways, next is Little Joe, and then all the other guys, including the magician and the heads. There's like little humanoid dolls around the place in Sister Location. Most of them are unnamed, especially the heads, but only 2 of them even make sounds. And most of them don't move, but the heads do blink noticeably, which is kind of weird. Little Joe is the top left, and it's actually the mascot for Lally's Lollies. We don't know if Lally's Lollies is like a company underneath Fazbear Entertainment or if it's a separate entity altogether, but it is interesting that Little Joe it appears like a little doll, isn't it? I think there's definitely some lore in the universe that could be explain this, but I haven't gotten really deep into it, and I'm not here to make theories, so we'll move on. So, The Immortal and the Restless. This is a show that Michael watches after work when he sits down on the couch, eats some popcorn, where Count Vlad and Clara discuss their child. The show has multiple seasons and an unknown amount of episodes, but at least 3. Vlad claims that Clara's baby is not him despite similarities, and obviously being a vampire. Vlad is meant to symbolize William Afton, while Clara then is being Mrs. Afton. I don't really remember the details, but Vlad's house does burn down, and Clara stays with Vlad no matter what. So that could mean something about the Aftons. That could mean, what it meant. But the show itself is based off of soap opera titled The Young and the Restless, as well as vampire movies in general. And it's important to note there were 2 concepts for these character designs, and the second concept was the one that they went with. I think it's very nice. I really like this one. I did a lot of research for this section, surprisingly. But now we're gonna go to Pizzeria Simulator. Yeah, we're not doing FNAF World yet. In a minute. We're almost there. First, let's talk about the scrap and salvages. The only aggressive animatronics in this game are the ones you can salvage. There's 4 salvages. They are all from previous games, except for technically Lefty. But they can all be salvaged for some money. But if they are too damaged, they will be worth half the amount. And then if you shock them again, they will be worth $100 only. The reason you would shock them is because they will move during these sections, during the salvage sections, and if you get jump scared, they will be let loose into your establishment. If you salvage them, they will be let loose anyways, but you get money, so it's better to salvage them. Or you can throw them out the alley and not deal with them. When purchasing an item without any amount of liability, there is a chance an animatronic will be brought into the pizzeria, and all the salvaged animatronics in the pizzeria will be active during the night sections and could possibly kill you. Just briefly gonna mention, during the night sections, each animatronic besides Lefty can teleport once per night. Now we have the catalog animatronics. The catalog is the tycoon section of the game, which allows the player to buy animatronics, build the pizzeria, really cool. It's really innovative. I really like this section. I wish there was more tycoon games like FNAF. These animatronics are in certain sets, which give achievements actually, and we usually will talk about these achievements like in total. But the different achievements include Trash in the Gang, Mediocre Melodies, The Rock Stars, and Posh Pizzeria. Trash is Little Trash, which can somehow move and is sentient, at least a little bit. The Mediocre Melodies are similar to FNAF 1 area animatronics, but require a battery pack to function. The Rockstar animatronics are just the main gang, but with a Rockstar theme and new mechanics in UCN, which we will actually talk about their mechanics. Lastly, the Posh Pizzeria animatronics are special. Being very expensive, it can be sometimes won from minigames, and they are given a large achievement with a lot of money as a reward for such a difficult thing, Anywho, let's talk about the scraps first. So here's Molten Freddy. So imagine Circus Baby is ejected from Ennard, and here's what's left. Ennard sort of lost a lot of mass, so he's more like spaghetti, and they actually fashioned a Freddy-like face, hence why he's called Molten Freddy. And he's actually the cheapest salvage, only rewarding at $500, and he uses Funtimes Freddy's voice. He clearly is missing a lot of his structure, and in UCN he uses the vents as well. He's not too special. He uses the same voice lines. Where did Baby go? Well, she makes Scrap Baby. She fashions roller skates out of trash. She has new hair. She's got a giant fucking claw. She's the second most expensive salvage. Maybe. That could be a lie. I don't know the exact salvage prices. I could be wrong. I think she might be the second cheapest. But she has a part in the canon ending of Pizzeria Simulator right before she gets cut off for connection terminated by Henry and Emily. We'll talk about him in a minute. She can actually be controlled shock in UCN to deal with her when she appears in UCN. Here's Afton, or Scrap Trap. He is seen presumably after burning FNAF 3, now with more bones, and boned ears, and more flesh. So he's very different than Springtrap. Maybe he rebuilt himself, we don't know. He's got missing an arm. This is his first appearance, giving Afton a voice actually, so I think he's really special. I really like his voice. He is the second least expensive salvage, maybe, don't know. He's also the only character when burnt to be in a different room or area, theoretically, than the other animatronics in FNAF 6, since the walls and the render look a bit different, but who knows? He still is burnt because he is the player character in FNAF UCN. And in UCN, Afton actually is still in here, but we call him Scrap Trap. And he attacks once per night, very, very fast, makes a lot of noise, so you have to just react in time and close the far right vent. Now we have Lefty. Now this one's interesting. This is both a catalog and a scrap animatronic, because he only costs $5 in the catalog section, but is worth, I think, $5,000 in the salvage section. Lefty was created to contain the puppet. As you can see in this render down here, you can see the puppet is inside of Lefty. And they actually, thanks to a coding error, cannot teleport once per night like everyone else can. And in UCN, they are sound sensitive and will become aggravated if it is too loud for too long. And they are called Lefty since they're left-handed and their left eye is gone. This technically isn't a salvage, but the salvage sign exists. If your liability is too high and someone gets into your establishment, you'll be greeted by this sign instead of a salvage after your shift. We don't know who put it here. Probably one of the animatronics that snuck in, but we don't know who made it or why it exists or why there's a note. It's like a custom-made sign. Like, it's so interesting. It's winking at me. Like, perhaps it's alive. No, it's not alive. It's not alive. No. Anyways, the first catalog group is Trash in the Gang, consisting of Mr. Hugs, Pan, Stan, Bucket, Bob, Number 1 Crate, and Mr. Can Do. These are the cheapest animatronics, quote-unquote, made out of literal garbage, and none are very deadly, except for maybe Mr. Hugs, because he jump scares the toy Freddy in UCN. And in UCN, speaking of which, all of them appear except for Pan Stan, and the other three appear as a character I think just called ? That annoy the player, with Mr. Can Do blocking the screen, Number 1 Crate whispering and then jump scaring the player, and then Bucket Bob also just jump scares the player making loud noise, but it doesn't actually kill the player. Next is the Mediocre Melodies. Orville the Elephant, Mr. Hippo, Ned Bear, Happy Frog, and Pig Patch All are external battery-powered animatronics that likely competed with Freddy's in the past, but were either bought out or bankrupted. I will actually mention this a bit more later. Surprisingly, there is more lore to mediocre melodies than I thought. But they are actually harmless in FNAF 6. They're catalog animatronics. They're really cheap, but in UCN they appear as the duct animatronics, crawling through the duct towards the player. And they are stopped by audio lures and heat and stuff. And if you die to Mr. Hippo, you get famously really long speeches. And also the other ones will tell you about the one that Afton should not have killed. Next we have Rockstar's Assemble, which is the achievement name, which consists of all the Rockstar animatronics on Lefty, so Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And they are not dangerous, but they all come with liability when purchased. And in UCN, they all get new mechanics. Foxy is gambling, Freddy is capitalism, Chica's afraid of wet floors, and Bonnie's inept. I'll go into more detail now, but I was like, why would I type that? So, Foxy's bird will appear, you gotta click on it, and then he might jump scare you, or he might reward you with some, little power up. Freddy will stand in your office and occasionally will ask for 5 coins. I can't talk right now. He will ask for 5 coins, and you can either give it to him or use the heat to malfunction him. Chica, self-explanatory. If there's a wet floor sign in front of her, she will not attack you. So you just gotta move the wet floor sign. And Bonnie might appear on a 13-second interval, and when he appears on a 13-second interval, you have to find his guitar or he'll fucking kill you. Why do I know that? I don't know. The guitar appears somewhere on the cameras. They're actually all are given voice lines even. And blacklight recolors exist. I forgot. I'm gonna mention these later. But Rockstar Freddy got one, which is pretty neat. None of the other Rockstars did, but Rockstar Freddy did. Speaking of Rockstar Foxy, here's the parrot. He is the first instance of a parrot actually in the entire series. I think it's pretty neat. The parrot even has a little eye patch, and since Rockstar Foxy is a peg leg, this sort of makes him more piratey than even regular Foxy. The parrot really doesn't do much. In Pizzeria Simulator, it's attached to him, but you can see that the parrot flies across your screen in Ultimate Custom Night. So it's pretty cool. But it is made out of metal, so it's kind of odd that it can fly. I get that, UCN's kind of hell, so the logic doesn't apply, but it is necessary to note, I think. Anywho, Posh Pizzeria. There's only 3 animatronics required for this achievement. That's because they're really expensive. We have El Chip, Funtime Chica, and Music Man. They're all very expensive, but Funtime Chica and Music Man can be prizes won from certain minigames. They all also return in UCN, which we will talk about later, but only Music Man can kill the player. El Chip is actually a reference to Scott's older character Chipper, which we'll talk about in a bit. Funtime Chica was previously mentioned in SL Code and Sister Locations Code in Chica's Party World. And Music Man is a spider thing that has weird lore in at least a fan game. I don't like Music Man that much because I actually don't remember if the lore I know is from a fan game or not, because it's just been so long. Here we have Helpy. He's adorable. He's like the new mascot for FNAF, and this game was his debut. He plays the minigames for you. He does your taxes and lawsuits, and he's all around really nice. He even stands above you when you're doing your work. But in UCN, he will appear, and you have to click him, otherwise he will make really loud noises with air horns. And you also have to deal surgery on him, basically, in Help 1 and 2. And he actually has other variants, such as Helpy, which we'll talk about in a bit. Next, we have the security puppet. So, this is either the first version or a remade version of the puppet, because the minigame obviously looks different. But this is how we know the puppet was designed to keep track of children. We get to see that during the minigame, we're supposed to look for Charlotte Emily, but we see her locked outside. And we know that Charlie Emily gets killed by Afton. And the puppet goes outside to lie next to her out in the rainy alleyway as it shuts down. While Security Puppet is just a placeable, they're really important for the lore, so I gave them their own section, plus they look cool. Don't worry though, when I wrote that, I had not added many other placeables, but we have a lot more placeables coming up. First we have Candy Cadet and also ruined Candy Cadets down here, we'll talk about why in a second, but Candy Cadet likes to give children candy, and if you are lucky, he will tell you a story. He has a very robotic voice, and his stories are very unsettling. The stories usually have a common theme of like 5 becoming 1, which sort of like, Ennard. Possibly referencing Ennard, I can't believe I wrote that down, or some other amalgamation as shown in the books, because there are amalgamations everywhere in the series, which we'll actually talk about again later. He mentions the box for FNAF 4, but not much. We don't see him really until UCN, where he's like really glitching, and we find out why he's glitching, because in Ruined or Security Breach, we actually see his dead body basically under the Pizzaplex. But he does give you money actually sometimes in Pizza Sim. Here's the egg baby. Surprisingly important because they look similar to Balloon Boy. They're kind of like a Russian nesting doll. They can be bought on the Rare Finds Auctions tab. They're fairly expensive. However, they are important to unlocking the Insanity ending because it's a data archive. The ending unlocked by this purchase is how we learn about Remnant and confirm the puppet is inside Lefty and learn more about the man behind the cassette, Henry Emily, which we will talk about now. So there's a man that informs you via cassette on how to salvage the animatronics after every shift. This is not just so you survive or he gets paid. He has an ulterior motive. He wants to gather every animatronic in the building and put them all to rest by burning down the entire building, including himself and you. This is one of the co-founders of Fazbear Entertainment named Henry Emily, and we'll talk about him later in the presentation more. But right now, Neon Jukebox time. I love Neon Jukebox. It can be placed, it can be purchased in the Smiles and Servos category. It's non-placeable. It's automatically being put down once after you buy it. So it's similar to whatchamacallit? What's it called? The party decorations and stuff, because they just appear on the walls, so you don't have to place them down. It just forever is that. It plays music. It moves its eyes back and forth. It's got no gender. It's perfect. There's not much else to say. I love Neon Jukebox. And if you thought this section was stupid, wait till you hear about Gumball Swivel Hands. Literally, what the fuck am I supposed to say about Gumball fucking Swivel Hands? He's got a big old smile. Look at him. He's got like SpongeBob teeth and SpongeBob eyes. He's got a whimsical hat like Balloon Boy's. He's got 2 spinning arms that spin around, and he takes coins. Look, he's got a giant coin slot there. I don't know how that works because I don't know if you can turn that, but I don't know. It turns, and like maybe you can put a fast coin in there because it's like fast coins the currency, and they're bought in Stan's budget tech. We'll talk about Stan's budget tech later because it's important in some ways. So there's other animatronics. They're not very important. I don't want to keep going and adding more and more of this stupid shit. So I put an end to it. I will add plenty of stupid shit. Don't you worry. But there's the Fruit Punch and Lemonade Clowns, which have mini games where you have to scare children. The only difference between the two is that their radius is different. Perfect game results in a lot more points. The Prize King is like gambling. He's at the bottom there, and you have a really high chance to earn nothing, but you can maybe earn Funtime Chica. These animatronics are not really ever seen again, unless like it's an Easter egg, so it's not that important. We're gonna move on. Now Rask is interesting because they seem pretty important, but they're very briefly mentioned. So the Remote Activated Simulated C, I guess that's the name from when I did my research, but I have no clue what their name is a small robot only seen in the Insanity ending. Henry built these, probably multiple of them, to lure the animatronics into the establishment where they need to be burned. And they sort of use the sound of children, I think like FNAF 3. We really don't know much about them as this is their only appearance and mention, but I still think it's really important. Like, I don't know much about them. I need to do more research. But we'll do a quick honorable mention. We will talk about this probably later. But before the release of FNAF World, Scott posted a troll demo. In total, there are 4 troll demos throughout the series, but this one's like not only the best, but somewhat relevant to FNAF, as Purple Geist, the main boss of this demo, actually appears in the FNAF World Halloween update. Which Purple Geist is like a strange, ghoulish version of Purple Guy, sort of like a ghost, maybe similar to Glitch Trap even. We also see other animatronic enemies that we never see again, but it's important enough to bring up because it may not be canon, but Purple Geist will appear again. Now we're in FNAF World, where they're cute now. So the adventure animatronics. Every equipable animatronic in this game, besides like a few, have appeared before, but now they're given the prefix adventure. The only difference between this and their original versions are the attacks, as each character has 3 moves to choose from. They all have different health as well, which only increases the further down the list the animatronic is found. So while Freddy has 100, Bonnie will have 105, and it keeps going up and up by 5. And every level up, you actually get more health and more attack for certain attacks, but not all attacks can increase their damage. The adventure animatronics are found randomly after battling in FNAF World or running away from battle in FNAF World, and once you beat the character, they are added to your party, or you can add them to your party. They're just added to like the character selection screen. Except the Halloween update animatronics must be earned by completing various minigames, and these minigames include Foxy.exe, Freddy in Space, Foxy Fighters, and Chica's Magic Rainbow. First, we'll talk about Endo Plush. I hate this guy. This is the weirdest addition to the FNAF World roster. They come out of nowhere, they don't really return, they have no purpose, but they are like the endoskeleton of Plush Trap or plushies in general, like Plush Baby maybe. They're pretty damn weak in this game. They're added because character quota, as the game itself says. He's like kinda cute maybe, but he's, you know, what the fuck am I supposed to say about him? I don't like him. Alright, we'll move on. The final character, or Adventure Office Fan. So the Office Fan is the final quote-unquote character in FNAF World, which is more like, it's actually a bite, but it's unlocked after you unlock everyone in the game. It's pretty powerful, I think, but mainly Scott included this as a little reference to how the fans of the game obsessed over the fan in the game for so long, since it was in every game in some way, and people honestly thought it was dangerous. Even a loading screen with the words "fear it," I think. So, what are bites? There's little purchasable things you can buy from Lolbit, and here are all 22 other ones. The Gnat, Neon Bee, Neon Wasp, Medpod 1, Medpod 2, Mega Med, Mini Reaper, X Reaper, Mini FO, UFO, XFO, Block 5, Block 20, Block 50, Pop Pop, Boom Kaboom, Boss Train 01, Boss Train 02, Block Train S, and the Pearl. The only one that cannot be bought is the Pearl, in which case you have to collect the Pearl in Dee Dee's fishing minigame a few times. Don't worry about it, we'll talk about Dee Dee in a bit, but the minigame's just, you pay 10 coins, you're in a boat, there's fish and a pearl, the pearl's worth 100 coins, collect it a few times, you get a pearl bite, and it heals you. Quick honorable mention of Virtual Freddy and Ghost Freddy. So they appear when using moves in FNAF World. The Ghost Freddy only appears when using the move Haunting, but he does appear in future like depictions in games, which is pretty nice. He has a chance to miss, but will freeze the enemy in place if he connects. And Virtual Freddy appears when using the Mimic Ball to mimic attacks, doing the mic toss animation really quickly. He disappears quickly, staying less than a second, which is why his loading screen says blink and you'll miss it. Right there is the Mimic Ball that summons him. The Mimic Ball will not get its own slide, but Munchies will. Munchies are summoned by the attack of the same name, called Munchies. The amount summoned changes depending on how many enemies are on screen. So if there's one enemy, there will be 1. If there's 2, 2, 4, 4. They deal damage over time, and they resemble the bear trap enemies in this game, but like much smaller and they have blue eyes. I don't really know why they exist, but since Toy Bonnie and Balloon Boy are the only characters that have them, that maybe means something, like they are hungrier than the others, or maybe they somehow caused the bite of stabbing or something. I don't know, but like I feel like the attacks in this game have some relevance to the character, so I'm just trying to think of like what that would mean that only those 2 characters have them. But anyways, we have Funtime Foxy here, aka Restored Mangle, aka Toy Foxy. So this is the only official Toy Foxy in the series, like the only official render. Funtime Foxy is a very useful and power support character in this game. They also predate the Funtime animatronic in FNAF Sister Location. And the Lolbit of this game is a recolor of Funtime Foxy, or, you know, other way around since you meet Lolbit first, technically. But they're missing the chest speaker and Ferris place that the Sister Location one does. So, they also have a hook, which is quite interesting. Scott could have chose it as a teaser, but who knows what Scott was thinking back then, right? Like, this is the only restored Mangle, too. I just wish there was more restored Mangles. Like, is it kind of crazy that, like, we have no canon designs for a lot of the characters? We only get the damaged ones? It's so weird. Anywho, next we have the Crying Child. Again, but this time it's a character. Obviously taken after the FNAF 3 minigame appearance. It's a support character and the last road characters, so it's very strong. They're still sad. They have no defining characteristics, so we really don't know which one this is. But they are the second most overpowered support in the game, so it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now here's Mendo. Mendo's only appearance is in this game, and they sell new endoskeletons to the player, which increases their party's defense. He's not super important or anything, but like, does this mean endoskeletons can be replaced? But like, is the endoskeleton connected to the spirit, or is the spirit connected to the endoskeleton, or just to the suit? Can like, Mendo like, is Mendo the most powerful endoskeleton, or is he the most important? Because he's selling upgrades. He's like, is he grafting this onto you? Like, is he like drilling it onto you, or is he like molding it, or he's mending it? He's Mendo. Like maybe he's like soldering it on, right? Or like you just like rip it out. He's like got gorilla hands. He's like ripping out your endoskeleton and shoving it in. Like I get this game's on canon, but all right, we'll move on before I dive even deeper into this. We'll move on. Well, here's Coffee. So Coffee comes from one of Scott's previous games, The Desolate Hope. He is a Halloween character, so he's very powerful. After being unlocked from minigame, he also makes an appearance in the FNAF movies, an actual functioning coffee pot. Or he was supposed to be, but he was replaced last minute by a different prop. Coffee may return, as Edwin actually built a coffee maker as one of his many inventions leading up to the creation of the Limit. So it's possible that Coffee could return as an actual character canon to FNAF. Here is Purple Guy. Purple Guy makes another appearance under his official nickname, given by the fact he's always some shade of purple, unless he isn't. He's a Halloween character, so he's pretty strong. He's got Slasher, which is a move that deals insane damage, but only has a 1 in 10 chance to hit. It's really interesting because he fights along the other animatronics, like he fights alongside them just fine. People aren't angry at him, but I think it's because when you talk to him in game, he says he's not William. Like he tells you, "Oh, I'm not the same guy." But here you can see all of the appearances up until this point, and obviously he takes place after the FNAF 3 one. He takes 10 seconds to draw apparently, which I think is bullshit. If you are using the rectangle tool though, like I did when I drew him, yeah, it's totally possible to draw him in 10 seconds. Alright, now we're gonna move on to some of the bosses. Here's Anim Dude, or Scott Cawthon. So Scott Cawthon, the final boss of hard mode. He's based off of the profile picture, Anim Dude is, which is actually based off of a previous game Scott made. We'll actually talk about him later. He's a very powerful fourth wall attack that the player can actually use once you unlock him during the Halloween minigames. We'll talk so much weaker. As like the final boss of hard mode, he sort of curses the player, like as Scott Cawthon himself, always saying that they ask for too much. And Anim Dude appears throughout the series always as like an Easter egg or like a helping hand or like an enemy. Anim Dude appears a lot because, you know, he's Scott Cawthon basically. Anyways, now it's time for Chipper and Chipper's Revenge. They're two characters. So Chipper comes from Chipper and Sons Lumber Company, Scott's previous game before FNAF. He's a Halloween update character, so he's really strong. Before the Halloween update, he was actually a boss, Chipper's Revenge, which was like an animatronic metal boss thing that could be found by going off screen with a key in one of the mines. Chipper's Revenge was hell-bent on getting back at Five Nights at Freddy's for stealing the spotlight. And this boss is given like every powerful attack in the game in order to beat you. So he's not the final boss, he's more like a secret, but he does award a trophy just like everyone else. So it's integral to beat him if you want 100% the game. Either way, both pretty cool characters. Here's a bunch of other characters not mentioned. You know, these are all of the adventure characters. I just didn't want to mention them. I probably already mentioned some of these, but like, put the prefix adventure in front of the following, and that's a character. So we have Adventure Freddy, Adventure Bonnie, Adventure Chica, Adventure Foxy, Adventure Fredbear, Adventure Marionette, Adventure Balloon Boy, Adventure JJ, Adventure Spring Bonnie, Adventure Endo 01, Adventure Endo 02, Adventure Paper Pals, Adventure Toy Freddy, Adventure Withered Freddy, Adventure Phantom Freddy, Adventure Nightmare Freddy, Adventure Toy Bonnie, Adventure Wither Bonnie, Adventure Shadow Bonnie, Adventure Shadow Freddy, Adventure Nightmare Bonnie, Adventure Jacko Chica, Adventure Jacko Bonnie, Adventure Toy Chica, Adventure Withered Chica, Adventure Phantom Chica, Adventure Nightmare Chica, Adventure Withered Foxy, Adventure Mangle, Adventure Phantom Foxy, Adventure Nightmare Foxy, Adventure Golden Freddy, Adventure Nightmare Fredbear, Adventure Nightmare, Adventure Phantom Marionette, Adventure Nightmare On, Adventure Phantom Mangle, Adventure Phantom Balloon Boy, Adventure Nightmare Balloon Boy, Adventure Spreading Trap, Adventure Plush Trap. God, my throat hurts. Now we're here for Chica's Magic Rainbow. This is the real final boss of the Halloween update, with an impossible amount of health to defeat and an impossible to survive attack after 3 minutes. Chica's Magic Rainbow started as an annoying and difficult, unfair minigame to earn some Halloween characters. And once you try to fight Purple Geist, the supposed final boss, the real one crushes him and starts annoying you, trying to kill you, summoning small rainbows, and it's only possible to beat here using Slasher. I already told you what it does, but 1 in 10 chance to do insanely massive damage. You have to hit 3 of them at a minimum, but if you hit 4 of them, you basically win. She appears throughout the series as sort of like an Easter egg. Like always, like if you see a rainbow in the series, imagine it's her. It's sort of like PTSD after beating her mini games because it's really unfair, and I still haven't even beaten it, I don't think. Now we have Souldozer from Foxy Fighters. So Foxy Fighters is a mini game that involves Foxy, obviously, and some other characters just shooting, sort of like a side-scrolling Galaga type game. And you can unlock 2 characters from that, and this gives voices to various characters for the first time. But let's not mention that. We're going to mention Souldozer. So this is the final boss of this minigame, and he comes from one of Scott's previous games called The Pilgrim's Process. Similar to Chipper, he wants revenge. And Foxy says it himself, this is his last cameo. He shoots rockets and stuff, he's a lot of health, but it's fairly easy to take him down. Next we have Security Owl. So they're just called Security, but since a enemy also has the name Security in the troll demo, I like to call him Security Owl. But it is the final boss in normal mode, and it's the second to final boss in hard mode, where you have to open all the gates in order to fight them by grabbing the key and then running around the map fighting all the bosses again. But they sit in Pinwheel Circus behind all those lasers, and you can beat them. And they force the player to have the shield, since they have an attack called Alarm, which deals 999 damage to any or all party members if it connects. And while it's not super difficult or important, the owl does reward a trophy, so I have to mention them. And they also appear in future things to reference, I think. And it also inspired an enemy in a FNAF fan game called Chase Animatronics, I believe, which I will eventually play, maybe. Let me know if you want to see that if you're watching. So, quick overview of FNAF World enemies. Many enemies of FNAF World are unique and often strip original characters not related to anything, or there's animatronic recolors or inanimate objects with eyes. Some enemies are even recolors of each other, which is quite funny. The enemies attack at random, having a chance to appear every step you take and become more stronger with each new location. Some enemies like Bounce Pot actually are kind of popular relatively, so they appear as little Easter eggs in future games, like on the desk you see in. If you really were curious and you really wanted to suffer, then you're lucky, because I'm gonna go read every enemy name in the game, and there's actually some enemies from the troll version too, because I didn't delete all of them. There's 57 enemies, including exclamation point 2222, ampersand, up arrow, dollar sign, left parenthesis, anchovy, auto tripper, ball boy, bear trap, big jack, black trap, bounce pop, bouncer, box bite, brow boy, bubba cheesehead, chill, axe, chop and roll, colossal, crabable, dogfight, eyesore, flan, gear rat, 6 arrows right rather. Gold, endo, gold, mine, grave, weed, half baked, jangle, mad, endo, mad, jackman, crab, meringue, or is it meringue? I don't know. Metal Man, Mini P, Mud Pie, Neon, Overclock P, Goon, Party Hat A, Party Hat B, Pork Patch, Prototype, Particle Guy, Squad, Endo Core, Red Bear, Rot C, Goon C, Weed, Security, Snow Cone, Super Goon, Tangle, Tombstone, Totemole, White Rabbit, and Zangle. And now we'll mention the Freddy in Space series briefly. What started as an April Fool's joke became a real minigame in FNAF World, later returning in a series of spin-offs. FNAF 57, aka Freddy in Space, features some original enemies, some FNAF World enemies, and Adventure Freddy with a gun that upgrades with cupcakes. Lore-wise, Freddy is stopping Scott from making future crappy spin-offs, such as FNAF 57, which they're in. Obviously that failed since Scott later made Freddy in Space 2 and 3. There's Scott's head. And if you're wondering, Freddy Space 2 and 3 is called... Yeah, one's just called Freddy in Space 2 and the other one's called Chica in Space. Unless Freddy in Space 2 was called Bonnie in Space, but I think it was just called Freddy in Space. Next we have Deskman. So Deskman, Update 1, was in a house at the start of the game, and he mentioned something horrible coming, and he won't elaborate. But in Update 2, he mentioned Circus Baby. She's activated, and the lights go out. Circus Baby speaks to the player. The show will begin momentarily. Then once the lights are on, the man is face down dead, bleeding out. If you return later, he remains dead, unmoving. He is an avatar for a creator. We don't know who he represents. Maybe it's Scott himself, or William Afton, or Henry. It's probably Henry since he dies in the books to an animatronic he made, but we don't actually know who it is. Well, I'll just say it's Henry. Anyways, Ultimate Custom Night, my personal hell. Here's Dee Dee, originally from FNAF World, as a fishing minigame, obviously. Dee Dee reappears as like a demonic asshole with an annoying voice. She sings a little annoying jingle and promptly summons a new character into your night. She has two versions of this jingle, but she's annoying either way. The character she summons will have a random AI value, and it can even be on a different roster that you can't normally access, that Dee Dee only can access. These secret characters include RxQ, Plushtrap, Nightmare Chica, Minirina's, Lolbit, and Ballnet. There might be more, there might be less, I don't know. But there's even Shadow Dee Dee, aka XOR. They appear just like Dee Dee, except only on very rare occasions, or when the player's points are set to 50-20. They summon at least 3 new animatronics, maybe even like all of them. I don't know. I just don't know much about them. But instead of the normal dance, they just like glitch around the office, playing distorted, deep version of the song. And this is like their only appearance, I believe. Anywho, Old Man Consequences. So they debut in FNAF World, but they're much more important on UCN. The games are connected through them because when you talk to him in UCN, you get a trophy in FNAF World as well. If you know, it's kind of weird, but he's on the 4th layer of reality. Basically, when you get too far. In UCN, he makes you catch a fish, and if you don't catch a fish, he won't let you use the cameras. But he actually appears as an old man in Princess Quest games. He usually is really wise. He gives wisdom to people. He gives wisdom to the player, or to Afton, or to Cassidy, or the princess. He's just a wise guy. He's an overall, good guy. But we don't know what he is or what his deal is. I think he's a crocodile. Maybe people say he's a crocodile. I don't know. Anyways. Phone Guy, finally. He appears in many FNAF games. Originally FNAF 1, then he appears in the prequel FNAF 2, and then he appears as a recording FNAF 3. But in UCN, he's the guy. A new button will appear in the office. You must click it, otherwise he starts talking and adds noise. And it's theorized he's in UCN because his spirit connected to the closest thing to him once he died, the phone he was holding when recording the messages for us in FNAF 1. Phone Guy is voiced by Scott Cawthon himself. The theory that he's possessing the phone is obviously a bit, out there, considering that it's just hell. It's a personal hell for William Afton, so it probably isn't actually his spirit, but it could be. It could be. We don't know. El Chip. So we're gonna go over the Posh Pizzeria animatronics once more, since they have, more of a character than the other catalog animatronics. So I think it's more important. So he returns from Pizza Sim. He can't kill the player. Instead, he blocks their screen with a pop-up ad, makes some noise. It sort of references the ads in Pizzeria Sim that can appear during your nights when you accept them for money. And the higher his AI is, the more likely it appears on his intervals. You can skip the ad pretty easily after a few seconds, and he's based on Chipper, and he has actually a restaurant in Security Breach. He has a restaurant called El Chips. He's obviously Mexican. He's got I don't know what that guitar's called. I think it's called the mandolin, but I could be wrong. It could be maybe from a separate company, different than Fazbear's, considering he has an ad, we don't know. But Funtime for Chica is another reappearance. They can't kill the player, but she flashes you, literally. She sets a random voice line, she blocks your eyesight, and the camera starts flashing and distortion on your screen. It just is a distraction thing. This mechanic is most definitely a nod to how people have been drawing Chica and Toy Chica. Since her UCN appearance is obviously very inaccurate to her actual model, it's just something interesting to point out, Music Man is the last of the Posh Pizzeria animatronics added to UCN with a new mechanic. He's the only one of the 3 that can kill the player, as if the office is too loud for too long, he will kill the player. He sits right behind them and he warns them by smashing his cymbals together, progressively getting faster and louder, until he kills them. And his death lines usually talk about music. Very interesting. Next we have the UCN cutscenes. Just kind of mention them briefly. After scoring some number of points, you get one of these cutscenes. There's 3 of each, I think. There's also 3 genres. There's Yandere Chica, Samurai Freddy, and a final one, which is Golden Freddy for beating 50-20 or 49-20. These cutscenes are really weird and feel both out of place yet completely accurate for this series, honestly. And they have a few lines that might be important for the story, and I'd rather forget they were there. I'd rather forget they exist, but it's a bit weird. Although, you can see another wolf. A lot of wolves in the series, despite there not being an official name for the wolf besides Roxy. There's a male Fredbear, and it can actually be seen nice inside of Nightmare, so you know that this is their endoskeleton. Pretty cool. I always find it interesting, though, I would mention this now. Endoskeletons, like, they only are for one type of animatronic. Like, we don't get to see a Foxy endoskeleton, we don't get to see a Chica endoskeleton, because they would have different endoskeletons, right? Like, it's kind of weird. Anyways, we're going to mention the VR Phantoms. So not every Phantom was ported into Help Wanted, but the ones that were very interesting, as they have full models, but can be seen with only parts of them showing like this, like you can see. So as pleased to mention, Foxy and Freddy are based on FNAF 1 models instead of their usual FNAF 2 ones, since Help Wanted did not have withers upon release. And once they updated the game to add the withered animatronics, they did not change these models, so they will forever be the FNAF 1 animatronics. I'm going to do a quick overview of the hard mode variants. So Help Wanted is a toggleable hard mode that makes each minigame harder. Some of these games, like Bear Repair and Parts of Service, have different animatronic variants once in hard mode. These variants include Burnt Foxy, Dark Freddy, Neon Bonnie, Neon Chica, and Shadow Mangle. It's pretty obvious how they look based on the names alone, but all hard mode variants seem like darker than normal, or like really pitch black. And usually in hard mode, the challenge comes from other aspects, so the animatronics seem slightly different. Like Shadow Mangle is just a separate entity besides Mangle, so there's two rather than one. And like, I don't know, it's just a bit interesting. I don't like going over them that much, but anyways, now it's Glitch Trap, or Malhit. I think Malhit is a better name, but he's called Glitch Trap. So it's an AI mimicking William Afton and taking on a supposed form, or it's William Afton's subconsciousness, but it's probably just an AI. He slowly gets closer throughout the one and eventually pulling the player in and trapping them when he escapes using their body, supposedly. However, he can also manipulate and affect a person's mind, making them follow his will, which ends up happening to the playtester Vanessa, more on her later. He's later crushed and Help Wanted 2 by Vandy. Probably means something, who knows. Anyways, here's Red Bear, aka Frank and Freddy, who is a Frankenstein version of Freddy Fazbear, and he's incredibly slow but strong. The player helps bring the life Help Wanted, and he attacks the player in a separate minigame, only slowing down once flashed with light. So there's a big hole in it, referencing that Red Bear, while the design looks more like, with Freddy combined with Red Bear. He's slow and dumb, very powerful, like I said. He's in Help Wanted, we don't get to ask questions though, because we don't know if he has a soul or spirit in him, or anything resembling sentience. Since he's canonically a video game character, we don't get to ask questions about like his design or anything, because he doesn't exist. It's so annoying. I want to learn more about you, Frank and Freddy. Anyways, Grim Foxy. So he's the final so far, because there's one more. Halloween reskin of the main squad. He roams the corn maze in search of the player. He is incredibly fast with lunging, but otherwise he just moves really slow. As if he's on the hunt. He's like kind of animalistic even. He's always on fire like the other Jacko ones. His hook is much larger, maybe representing like a scythe or sickle that a farmer would have. And he also makes an appearance in a Princess Quest. Like he's got a sprite, which I think is pretty cool. I like sprites. We're gonna do a slight detour. We're gonna talk about different FNAF games, but like I don't really want to give them their own section. So here's FNAF AR, or aka known as Special Delivery. Special Delivery was a game where Fazbear Entertainment would send out animatronics to people's houses for various events like parties and like holidays. In doing so, they made many different versions of the same animatronics, which we call skins. The main thing about the skins is they are theoretically separate entities. They're separate animatronics. If they aren't ever going to reappear in the series again, hopefully, but some of them do appear in Dead by Daylight. If you're curious, here's a list of all 41 FNAF AR skins. You can gather who's in the game based on the skins of the characters that I'm talking about. But there's Shamrock Freddy, Chocolate Bonnie, Easter Bonnie, Melted Chocolate Bonnie, Radioactive Toy Freddy, High Scorcher Chica, Systematic Toy Bonnie, Radioactive Foxy, Toxic Springtrap, Firework Freddy, Libby Chica, Flamethrower Bear Endo, Broiler Baby, Scorching Chica, Flaming Springtrap, Ringmaster Foxy, Magician Mangle, Clown Springtrap, Great Escape Freddy, Great Escape Golden Freddy, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Patrina Toy Chica, Woodland Toy Freddy, Boulder Toy Bonnie, Swamp Balloon Boy, Black Ice Frostbear, Arctic Balloon, Frostbite Balloon Boy, Frost Plush Trap, Heartsick Baby, Blackheart Bonnie, Serpent Mangle, Curse, Little Red Chica, Big Bag Foxy, Dark Water Bear Endo, Sunken Toy Bonnie, Piranha Plush Trap, Clockwork Aurora, Aeronaut Toy Freddy, Jetpack Balloon Boy, Freddy Frostbear, and Ape Baby. Now, there is technically other characters. because Big Back Foxy can also be Granny Foxy when he's wearing the granny suit. VR Toy Freddy can be Livewire Toy Freddy, but I'm not gonna add them because no, these are the characters that are listed when you search for skins. Alright, moving on. I will mention the cupcake skins because they're quite interesting. They go with the Kofu Chica skin. There's 8-bit cupcake, you know. I don't know if 8-bit cupcake counts, but there is an 8-bit cupcake. I just kind of added him because why not? There's a Liberty cupcake, there's Scorching cupcake, which is on fire. There's a Calavera cupcake, which looks like a skull, and there's Moldy cupcake, which is kind of yucky. I don't know why Little Red Chica has a moldy cupcake. It's kind of gross, honestly. I just like the designs a lot more of cupcake in AR. I think it fits a lot more. But yeah, I think it's because, you know, most of them are dead. Here's more games, by the way. So Scott used to make troll game demos before releasing FNAF game. Those are just reskinned versions of his old games. Like all of these three at least are. I don't know if this one was. This one's probably more original, but it still is a reskin of some sort. We'll talk about these in a second. But in more recent years, he's actually made spin-offs for a few reasons. This one was to give fans some content due to setbacks. This one was to donate to charity. This one was for a hint to access the FNAF movie, like a clip of the FNAF movie early. I won't go over these games in too much detail, but here's all 55 enemies and all of Scott's spin-offs. So we have Already Ate Chica, Anim Dude the Revenge, Bat Foxy, Cannon Cupcake, Chica Defense Network, Chicanator, Cyclops Alien, Easter Bonnie, FOX Tank, Foxbot, Franken Foxy, Fully Loaded Rabbit, Ghost Freddy, Hammerhead Puppet, High School Chicabot, Lols Hacks, Machine Claw, Math Theorists, Mario Minios, I don't know if that's like 10, Mario Midas, Mario Minios, I don't know, Mecha Plier, Piranha, Pirate Ship, Pirate Wolf, Pogo Foxy, Poopit Master, Puppinator, Robo Chica, WIP, Rocket Fox, S, Cotton, Shadow Mask, Sock Puppet, Terminator Chica, Totem Panic, Anime Bonnie, Blacklight Freddy Plush, Bootleg Foxy, Buff Helpy, Chad Freddy, Chillax, Foxy, Coming for Your Booty, Fungal Freddy, German Fun Freddy, Lamarck Bonnie, Anna Bonnettes, Kawaii Bonnie, Kawaii Cupcake, Kawaii Freddy, Kawaii Freddy Toy, Kawaii Stanley, Keytar Surfer, Lenny Face Freddy, Love Taste Toy Chica, Mr. Chipper, Mushroom Dozer, Party Hat, Pillow Pet Freddy, Pufferfish, Quizmaster Monty, Sanshi Chica Mask, Scott Cawthon, Sea Bonnie, Sea Stars, Space Cars, Dream Guide, Spider Girl, Ice Freddy, Marionette, Mega Brow, Poison Foxy, Punk Mangle, Soul Brawler, Thug Chica, Thug Life Chipper, Trap, Vanny, and the VR Sisters. Ooh, my throat. We'll mention Freddy's son briefly. He's not an enemy, but in Freddy Space 2, at the beginning of the game, Freddy's son alerts Freddy that in the danger of Lols Hacks, which is the main antagonist of Freddy in Space 2. He gets taken or something, so that's a motivator for Freddy Fazbear to get him. And he actually, he only appears in the intro, but he does appear in the good ending if you beat the game quickly. If you're not fast enough, he is missing from the good ending. You must start from scratch and win in half an hour. That's the requirements. But either way, he's missing from Freddy in Space 3. Now the troll games here. So for the FNAF 3, FNAF Social Location, FNAF World, and UCN, Scott released demos, which were actually just his incredibly old games with FNAF plastered over it. The FNAF 3 one is where Scott got his profile from. And it's been through his icon throughout the series. But obviously, posted a Freddy hat on it for the thing. Doofus is a pink dinosaur, and out of all the games, this is by far the worst and least playable. I hate it. Sit and Survive involves preparing each day beforehand and watching and hoping that the kid survives and you get more money for trying to successfully survive a night. There's different attacks and things that are going to go after you, like bears, zombies, UFOs, rain. Down here, I've already talked about FNAF World Halloween Edition. This is the most canon since Purple Geist appears in FNAF World, but you know, FNAF World's probably not even canon, so it doesn't matter. So now it's time for Security Breach. Astral Spiff could do this better, but first we have Gregory here, who is the player character in Security Breach. He hides inside of Freddy while surviving in the Pizzaplex. It's theorized that Gregory is not actually human but a robot due to voice lines in the game, as well as the resemblance to Afton's Crying Child. There's a lot of scrapped content that also supports that theory, I guess. Gregory also appears as a boss in Freddy in Space 3, riding in his Freddy mech. Gregory being a robot has many things to support it, but people dislike that theory, even though they were making wild theories at the same time. FNAF during this time was kind of toxic, honestly. Like, the theory space was not fun. Here's the Glamrock animatronic overview. Annex World shatters. So the Glamrock animatronics are the only animatronics presumed to not be possessed, with the exception of Freddy. They instead attack Gregory after being infected with a virus that Freddy doesn't get, since he is booted in safe mode. Throughout this singular night, the animatronics get progressively dirtier, and Gregory eventually destroys them all in some way, creating these shattered animatronics, which are just damaged versions of the Glamrocks. You get to see both their designs and all their slides, but first we'll talk about Glamrock Freddy, the main boy, the poster child, the fan favorite. He's the only animatronic not trying to catch Gregory, instead helps him survive. His wound in the stomach is usually for prizes and birthday cakes, but Gregory uses it as a hiding spot to pilot him. And Freddy can be upgraded using the other animatronics parts, getting eyes from Roxy, claws from Monty, and voice box from Chica. There's a theory that Freddy is also the only possessed Glamrock animatronic, who maybe is possessed by Michael Afton, which we'll discuss Michael Afton later, when we take it to the humans. Freddy still will kill Gregory, however, if he runs out of power or if Gregory fails during one of the upgrade sections. We have Glamrock and Shattered Chica. Chica wears some classic retro designs, pink and green, pretty cute. She has no bib this time. She has a guitar, but in some scenes she has a guitar she's not supposed to have. It's kind of odd. It's like there's no continuity. She's actually the most hungry Chica. She has her vice is that she is gluttonous. She eats trash. Gregory literally smashes her in a garbage compactor because she just is so hungry. And she steals her beat, obviously here, so she actually can't talk after Gregory destroyed her. Roxanne Wolf is a female, sort of foxy replacement, but she's a wolf, so she's not actually foxy. She loves praise, is very narcissistic, but also a lot of self-hatred and dialogue. So it's very interesting. All the Glamrocks are kind of evil to each other or themselves. It's kind of fun. But anyways, Gregory slams a go-kart into her and steals her eyes to upgrade Freddy, and it causes her to be blind and lunge at the player whenever they make noise. She holds a keytar in the band, which is a guitar and keyboard mix. I think it's pretty cool. Here's Montgomery Gator. Monty is the bassist of the band, and he takes the place of Bonnie after Monty was involved in their disappearance. He's incredibly aggressive and breaks things and rages often, which is why he's assumed in Bonnie's disappearance. And he even was seen going to where Bonnie was and leaving, and Bonnie did not leave. But the Pizzaplex acted as if Bonnie bestowed the position of Monty instead, just so people didn't ask questions. But he is completely destroyed. He falls off of a rafter and is torn in half. He gets his claws stolen and loses his glasses. So it's said that Monty's claws are sharp and strong, as is the requirement for bases to have claws, meaning that Bonnie must totally have something similar. Right? He doesn't. Anyways, here's the daycare attendant, or Sun and Moon. So the daycare attendant takes care of all the little ones, all the little kids, and they have two separate personalities that should technically be one, but it's a glitch that makes it so it's not one. Sun is energetic but very clean, while Moon likes the quiet and punishes those who are naughty, killing them. Sun is afraid of the dark because the moon comes out, while Moon hates the light since the sun comes out. And Moon is also let free to roam the Pizzaplex every hour for some reason. He's evil. Whatever. Quick honorable mention, Glamrock Mr. Hippo. He exists. I don't know why he exists, but he's not really much gameplay. He supposedly joins the band if Monty was to become the new face of Fazbear Entertainment, and he'd use the triangle as shown in that image. However, even Security Breach, another time Mr. Hippo is mentioned, is when Gregory receives a magnet of their face, in which case both him and Glamrock Freddy seem annoyed and sad and upset that it was Mr. Hippo. No one knows why they chose Glamrock Mr. Hippo, but I'm glad they did, because I like him. And Mr. Hippo does, I suppose, appear more often than the other mediocre melodies. Sure. Next we have the Glamrock Endoskeleton. So this is the endoskeleton base for all the Glamrock animatronics, and in this game they are forever ones. They only move when not being observed, so they're leaving angels, and they probably stole this mechanic from a fan game, the Joy of Creation specifically, but it's okay because it's its own spin on it. It's pretty cool. They're found in various places, meaning that either company was going to make more animatronics, or these were specifically made to keep unwanted guests out, or just kill people entirely. Who knows? Next we have the Music Men. So There are tiny music men that are now marketable toys, and they are like just roaming the Pizzaplex. The events are in groups. The new version of Music Man is actually the giant DJ Music Man in the arcade, moving through giant tunnels to patrol the area. The DJ loves music and performs a majority of the time, only chasing or attacking the player when they mess with the levers in the arcade. And noticeably, the original Music Man have different legs, as you can see here, but the DJ only has like 6 of them, and they're all hands. Alright, so Vanessa is the night guard searching for Gregory during security breach, who is also being influenced by the Afton virus. Vanny puts on her own homemade bunny suit that she stitched herself, we think, and she goes by Vanny when she's in this mode. Vanny is responsible for numerous disappearances in the Pizzaplex, killing children just like Afton did. Some endings of security breach have Vanessa being cured or dying, and her absence and ruined makes it unclear where she ended up. So she does appear in the Brazil ending, but the Brazil ending obviously is not canon. She has something in her bunny suit that makes her invisible to the animatronics, except with the eye upgrade. Because Freddy says a line like he can see her now when he has the upgrade. And also another ending, it's shown that Vanny and Vanessa are like staring at each other like they're 2 separate people, even though they aren't, so it's kind of odd. I don't know. It's a weird game. Here's the staff bots. We don't know what the acronym stands for, but staff bots are humanoid-ish robots that take care of the Pizzaplex, not waste money on employees. Don't know how that doesn't make sense, but whatever. They have many variants and jobs, we'll talk about that in a bit, but they are pretty harmless. But in specific sections of the game, you can have a Gregory fall into a crypt, into a pit of creepy variants of staff bots that sort of resemble Nightmare-on, and he dies. These Nightmare-on staff bots have like a permanent smile and glowing eyes. They've been very unique. It's very interesting because in Security Breach there is like a Nightmare-on virus going around, or a puppet virus at least, because cables start resembling the puppet. Nightmare-on plushies appear. Like, something's up in Security Breach. And if you're curious about which staff bot jobs there were, there's the security variants, mops, party, alien, Nightmare-on, comedy, magician, driver assistant, instructor, pizza bot, attendant, nanny, server, and fizz bot. And more of them will be mentioned elsewhere, because there's at least one more. And there's even a prequel to the staff bot, which we'll talk about in Secret of the Mimic. Very quickly, with the wet floor signs / caution bots, which are located throughout the Pizzaplex, trained to face the player once they get close. The bots do nothing in Security Breach but to be powered down and ruined. And once every bot is powered down and ruined, Grandma Bonnie's eyes change their glow. Whether this means something or just an Easter egg, who knows? Steel Rolls, insane game design company. What I mean by that, I don't know. That's why I like this little drawing. It's like making fun of normal animatronics. Oh, here's my boy Mathbot, or Maskbot. But Mathbot is a specialized staff bot that gives the player access to maps. Vanessa also pushes Mathbot out of the way to bring the player to a locked room at 2 a.m. Mathbot later becomes Maskbot in Ruined, and some theorize that Maskbot is possessed by the father of the player character in Ruined for some reason. We'll get into that later. But Maskbot has the same voice as Mapbot, the key difference being they give you a mask instead of the map that you used up the game in Ruined. I like Mapbot a lot. Have you noticed that a lot of these characters that, like, as we go on, are more like, they're less mechanic based and more lore based? I like switched halfway through. Here's Burn Trap. So he emerges from a charging station and starts hacking Freddy in one of the final endings of Security Breach. He is much different than Scrap Trap. Many people have theorized he was rebuilt using Bonnie, or was actually a Mimic. He might be the Mimic. He's definitely not rebuilt using Bonnie. Gregory defeats Afton by burning him a few times, which means that every time Afton is alive, he gets burnt, which is pretty funny. The game ends when Burn Trap gets grabbed and dragged away by the Blob, but that ending probably wasn't canon. But anyways, here's the Blob. The Blob is canon. He appears in Ruined. The Blob is an amalgamation of every animatronic's anger. He doesn't have many or any souls inside of him. Ah, I can't talk. The Blob stole some pieces and props from display cases, and that's why there's various animatronics within him. They weren't actually there, but maybe they were, because he is like a bunch of the animatronics that were in the FNAF 6 area. They were all burned and dead. They're from FNAF 1, 2, and 6 location. He's very aggressive since he has so much hatred in him. He's filled by hatred. He makes a cameo in Ruined, which is why he's canon. It's upsetting because I wish Ruined wasn't canon, but it is. And alright, we're going to mention Balloon World now, which shows total eclipse, theoretically. So, in a similar style to Flappy Bird, this minigame in the daycare has the player controlling Balloon Boy with a sun in the background. Upon touching a glitch through one of the trees, The background glitches, and Sun's face changes into something else, which may be Eclipse if they were in Security Breach and not Ruined, but more Eclipse later. We call this version of Eclipse Total Eclipse. This one up here. This is what the sun usually looks like. This is Total Eclipse. Now it's time for Ruined. Please be functional. Here's Cassie. Cassie was lured into the destroyed Pizzaplex by Gregory and hopes to save him. However, it's not actually Gregory, it's the Mimic. We'll talk about that in a second. Cassie used to go to the Pizzaplex while it was open, often having birthdays there. Cassie is much slower than Gregory, but she did have a father that worked for Fazbear Entertainment and was some sort of engineer. Roxy is her favorite animatronic. Cassie eventually falls down an elevator and is presumed dead in one of the endings to the DLC. Canon applicable ending of the DLC. Here's Helpy. Now with a new tech uniform, Helpy is AI that helps Cassie throughout Ruined. Eventually he deactivates the entity, which is called Mixies. We'll talk in a second. However, it's unclear if Helpy works with the Mimic or is against the Mimic, since the entity is thinking the Mimic trapped and disables it. It's weird. Helpy keeps Cassie with Doom, gets corrupted with the game as well, maybe? I don't know. Let's talk about the Mimic, or not the Mimic, the entity. So the entity comes from the Mixes program, designed to contain the Mimic and combat the glitch trap virus. However, throughout the game, it will try to get Cassie killed by luring animatronics toward her and preventing her from taking the mask on and off. Lovingly called Peg Trap by some, aka actual Spiff viewers. He cannot physically kill the player, but will jump scare them occasionally. I like his face. He's sort of like more human than Rabbit, but he has Rabbit characteristics, which is kind of the opposite of Ruinborn Afton, or just the beta version of Mixes. He's hidden in the game files. There's a variety of names people have called him, but I like Ruinborn Afton because a YouTuber called Oof Trap made a video titled Ruinborn Afton always comes back or something like that. And it's really funny. But he's like sort of the opposite of the official design, where he's more rabbit and human this time. But he actually has like feet. He actually has a few surviving animations, which means that he was scrapped like pretty damn late into development. But he's more purple than the official design instead of black. And he's got like a blue heart at the center of him. It's very interesting. Also, important to mention that these like lines resemble a vest, like the glitch trap does, you know? Here's Ruined Monty. He swims in the water, lost his outer shell for like basically entirely. You can see his similarity to the Glamrock Endoskeleton. You can see where he added some things, like, you know, obviously like this is the Glamrock Endoskeleton base, but this isn't. He literally canonically dies. He got electrocuted. It's pretty cool. Here's Ruined Chica. Ruined Chica also dies. However, she's like really gross and yucky. She has like literal trash bags inside of her. And you know, for the longest time I couldn't decipher her jump scare, but her jump scare has the trash bag falling out of her. She like has it hanging down there like a ball sack. But she becomes dysfunctional. Cassie could give her beak back, but it doesn't change the outcome. It doesn't change the story. It just is a thing you can do. She still screeches. She's really broken. You can see that her head actually is a bit of a different shape than the Glamrock Endo. It's pretty interesting. Next we have Ruined Roxy. So Roxy was so depressed she put on a mask for Ruined. You can see that happen in Help 1 and 2. But Cassie can actually see Roxy almost repaired through the mask. And this is called AR Roxy. Roxy's very kind to Cassie when she realizes that Cassie isn't Gregory, because Roxy is Cassie's favorite, and Roxy remembers Cassie's birthday and stuff. And Roxy actually gets deactivated by Cassie, and somehow gets reactivated to save Cassie from the Mimic at the very end, but not very long. She has like an uncertain fate. She might die, she might not, we don't know. But Ruined Freddy is an interesting one. So he has no head. He's gone through some things. He's missing a lot. His like casing on his hands and feet are gone. He's missing a knee, and like his stomach is ripped open to reveal like a Nightmare Fredbear sort of like thing. He's got like a present inside of him. Player gets like shoved into it, and like they die. Obviously, they get caught. This Freddy is the word prototype on their foot, and some have theorized this like isn't the same Glamrock Freddy as we see in Security Breach. We don't actually know. It's possible Gregory just like is evil and destroyed him. Gregory is pretty evil. Honestly, Glamrock Freddy might be trying to save Cassie, but just doesn't know how to because they have no head. They can't communicate. They might like thinking, oh, get in my stomach so you're safe, but they don't know like it's gonna kill you, but we don't know. And here's Eclipse, aka Ruined Daycare Attendant. So Sun and Moon are fighting for control. They're broken. You can die to them if you walk up to them. It's really funny, but you really shouldn't die to them in a normal playthrough. Eclipse is like a more healthy version of the two, which combine the like personalities, but like we don't really get to see them fully like repaired. We just get to see him like this. We don't really know what Eclipse is like. It's possible he killed by them. Like I mentioned, that's about it. Not important. Anyways, here's Ruined Bonnie. Or Glamrock Bonnie, actually. So he's hiding away in the bowling alley in a secret room. His eyes are glowing, but if you turn off all the bots, his eyes stop glowing, and the spirit had moved on perchance. But that means maybe he was possessed. We don't know. It's unclear. Everything doesn't make sense. This looks nothing like the bowling Bonnie that we see on the side of Bonnie Bowling. Meaning either Fazbear rebranded, or they just never liked this version to begin with. We don't really know. But also, I'm very disappointed that he doesn't have claws, because that kind of seems like he was supposed to have claws. Because the thing with Monty, whatever. But there's Ruined Music Man. So we only get to see the wind-up toys in Ruined, but we do get to see the Ruined DJ Music Man, Help 1 and 2, so I'm going to include them here anyways. So these ones are like disfigured, almost like purposefully, having like a broken jaw, like his face like literally got like ripped apart on purpose. And like this one obviously got like, bunny ears carved into it. So like maybe like the Mimic or someone else just like, was toying with them. But you get to lure them away as Cassie from certain areas in order to progress. In Help 1 and 2, DJ Music Man honestly acts exactly the same. He just looks a bit creepier. He is missing his nose, obviously, too. Oh, I should mention how they work in Help 1 and 2. This one in Help 1 and 2 works. He plays you a song. You get to see in front of you, and then you have to match the song with like different symbols. It's pretty cool. Anyways, here's Giant Glamrock Endo. So, in Ruin, when Cassie has the mask on, if you deactivated Glamrock Endo is in the path. He doesn't do much, he doesn't really move, but it's interesting. So you just don't know what he's for, what the purpose of him is. It might be like an Endo for something like DJ Music Man, but obviously DJ Music Man doesn't have an Endo that's like based off the Endo base. But anyways, speaking of the Endos, obviously they're not broken in Ruined, but this wasn't always the case, as there's supposedly an unused Ruined Endo, but they either decided against it, or they got lazy making it, or some secret third thing I'm not aware of. But when I looked up Ruined Endo, like this picture showed up, so this is all you're gonna get. Here's the Mimic. I'm not gonna make an M2 or an M1 slide, I'm just making the Mimic. So this is all you're gonna get from the Mimic program, really. I will talk about him more later though, obviously. So this is the main antagonist of Five Nights at Freddy's, the Mimic. It's an AI robot that can shift, move, fit any size suit, mimics things it sees. It's got a few suits at the end of Ruin, but it really only mimics Redrick's voice to lure Cassie into its lair and tries to kill her. Obviously it's succeeded in escaping, at least somewhat. The Mimic knows violence due to its creator, Edwin, beating it up through the rage of losing his son David after the Mimic had Mimic David. We'll talk about that again later. The Mimic will probably come up later. Yeah. Help 1 and 2, a really good sequel, I think. We'll quickly mention Princess Quest. It's a reoccurring minigame, but you actually get to kill the princess in Help 1 and 2, so that's what we call them here. But it started in the mobile version of Help 1 and 1, and you get to play more of it in Security Breach. And the fourth one, I believe, in this game, I don't know. But yeah, you have to fight glitch trap enemies and stuff, sort of like fighting the virus. We don't really know what it represents. I'm assuming that the old man might represent Emily in some way, the princess might represent Cassie in some way, or maybe Charlie Emily. The princess has a sword and also just lights torches. It's very interesting. Yeah. Here's Captain Foxy. He appears in Help 1 and 1, but I'm gonna put him here because I can. He's a true captain who pilots the log ride. He has two different voice actors actually. In Help 1 and 1 and Help 1 and 2, the voice actor is different. He will jump scare you, I believe, if you do not get at least like the minimum score. If you have like no points, he will kill you. But the log ride does have some more characters. So the Cursed River DLC for Help 1 and 1, yes I know this is Help 1 and 2, but don't worry about it. Have a few characters like cardboard cutouts, obviously. We have the Ghost Pirate version with Freddy and Bonnie. Bonnie, obviously, like, he's just a stereotypical pirate. He's got a tooth missing. He's got an axe. Freddy's like more of a captain, obviously. He's got like a fez. He's like a bit bigger. He almost looks like he has a beard, honestly. And this Mermaid Choi Chica, because why not? Like, obviously, they're probably like fighting over her or something. They don't really have official renders. They're just cardboard cutouts to mimic like real life log rides and how cheap they can be. They aren't super expensive. You just make videos. obviously, like, a lot of the big cart rides or log rides are a lot better and have like expensive cardboard cutouts in real life, but like this is as if they were cheapskates, because we know Fazbear Entertainment are cheapskates. We know that. Mystic Hippo is exclusive to the PlayStation VR version of the game and serves as a fortune teller, being able to tell the player what card they are looking at. She is clearly related to Mr. Hippo, but it's not seen outside her little box in the minigame. Who gives a shit? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand why you even add her. It doesn't make much sense. I guess there's a requirement for PlayStation VR, but either way, it's stupid. Here's Carney. So they act like as an announcer or like, you know, something for a lot of the mini games. They obviously resemble a Rockstar animatronic, but it's like in between brown and black, so it's like not Rockstar Freddy or Lefty. He's also got blue accents. He might even like be related to someone from Murray's Costume Manor. We don't know. But the player like obviously burns the Carney, as you can see here. He also like screams in pain, but like since it's a fake game, maybe. We don't know much about Help 2. We know a lot, we don't know much. I don't know. Everything seems weird in this game. If you can't tell, I'm very confused, and I'm not the one who should be making a slideshow, but I am. Here's Jack O'Moon. They're the antagonists in the log ride levels. So you gotta shoot the light, the specific light, or it'll jump scare you. You gotta make him go away by shooting the light. I don't know why Jack O'Moon looks like sun. That doesn't make sense, does it? I don't know. I don't get it. Why make sun orange? Sun already yellow. Why not give him yellow hat? Here's Head Chef Staff Bot. In the food prep mini games, above the player dangles this staff bot. They improve your performance if you're inefficient, or else. She's actually pretty unique. She has like no legs. She just dangles from the ceiling, and she does warn the player not to screw up. And like they kind of threaten them in a kind way, but like it's very obviously a threat. And like they have no concept of personal space because they get very close to you. Here's the Bonnie Bullhead, which actually does look like Glamrock Bonnie, so good on Steel Wool this time. They appear in the bowling alley game. They stand completely still until they start chomping away, getting closer and closer until the player bonks them in the nose with the ball, or they'll get eaten and die. They don't really do much else. They make the game more tense and difficult. They hardly count as an animatronic, but they do move and they look like Bonnie, so it counts. I just fucking ran out of water, and like, I don't know if you noticed, but we're only 2/3 of the way there and I ran out of water. Here's the Fast Force figures. The Fast Force is here with Fast Force Freddy, Bionic Bonnie, Chipset Chica, Mecha Pirate Foxy, Golden Freddy the Marionette, or just Friend 1 and Friend 2. When combined, they become Fazbot Otron, as you can see in the bottom right there. They're collectibles from Help 1 and 2, and accidentally related to the tapes in Help 1. It's somehow tied to Glitch Trap, as when they are combined, he's set 3 or something. Obviously, reference to Transformers and Power Rangers, I think, or you know, whatever the combining one is. I'm pretty sure the combining one is Power Rangers, but I could be wrong. You know, I'm not a very smart guy. I only sometimes smart guy. You know what I mean? Anywho, Secret of fucking Mimic. Oh yeah. Oh, I did mention M2. Fuck. Okay, by mimicking David, M2 triggered a mental breakdown in Edwin, and throughout Edwin's rage, M2 became heartless and mimicked what it knew, and it became a serial killer. The mimic lacks its own identity, which is why it's always inside of something or mimicking something, as we see it mimic David once more in Edwin's mansion during one of the endings, I think. Unlike in Ruin, the mimic is much more aggressive and also has less stuff on them, meaning they must have a lot of injuries, costumes, repairs, or changes until they find them unruined. As for mechanics, they appear randomly in many of the suits throughout the MCM. We don't know if they're in a suit until the suit starts moving, really. But like, you know, you'll probably know. They also can just like straight up kill you when they're not in a suit too. They usually do kill you in most of the endings. They were dispatched. Dispatch isn't real. They lured you here. Anyways, here's the mascot suit overview. The mimic can wear various suits around the map and will run at the player, try to kill them. There's a few returning suits from Security Breach, but many of the suits are like brand new. And they're either early versions of FNAF characters like Party Chica, or they're brand new, or they're book tie-ins like White Tiger here. The mimic can contort, expand, extreme, explain, blah blah blah, which means that other animatronics become suits as well, as we'll discuss later. But here's all the mascot suits, including the Ruin ones. We have Party Time Chica, White Tiger, Mascot, Moon, Elephant, Penguin, Lion, Birthday Puppy, Sharpay, Hedgehog, Hudgy, Lyrical Lemur, Mycelium Men, Swing Bee, and Jester. Also, the above have variants such as different colors, foam/unfinished suit variants, similar animals such as a ladybug one for the bee, and like sometimes they're just covered with a tarp. That's a different version for some reason. So like obviously there's like multiple Mycelium Men. There's like yellow and red and blue. Like I'm not gonna say every single color because that'd be insane, right? Here's the welcome show animatronics. So this is all the ones that were present in the welcome show. We have Mr. Rocktopus, Jugband Hippo, Jugband Monty, Jugband Frogs, Xylophone Snake, Lasso Pig, Juggling Duck, Diving Seal, Welcome Show Camera, Swing Bee, Birthday Puppy. That's all of them. So yeah, they were in the welcome show. That's like how to welcome the whatchamacallums, the investors to the MCM. But obviously that never happened. Here's Jackie. They are one of the first threats in the game, being incredibly strong and having very long extendable arms, just like the other animatronics in the game. Jackie is their own animatronic, but later is seen as being piloted by the Mimic. Jackie usually rests inside a box, however she rips herself out of the box, hence why she has no legs. It sort of might be like a new, like a original version of the puppet, honestly, because they have like their own puppet box. They were obviously teased a lot. They're like the poster child for the Secret of the Mimic, but overall they kind of are a very small portion of it, which is annoying. Here's Big Top, which is probably the original Music Man variant, being the center of the game area and offering tickets and prizes to everyone. His teeth play a song with like a spinning cylinder, similar to like one of those crankable music boxes. The Mimic does actually eventually pilot Big Top, meaning they can and will fit any suit. Big Top also scans the area in a section and will kill the player if he spots them, and his attention is drawn by the mannequins that surround the player. We'll talk about the mannequins in a bit. Here's Dolly. Dolly is a nurse for the animatronics at the MCM. If you didn't know, the MCM stands for Murray Costume Manor, or Murray's Costume Manor. I spelled it wrong here. However, she thinks the player's an animatronic and she wants them dismantled. She also has electric hands for short-circuiting or parodying animatronics. She's a recycler. The player eventually pushes her into the trash incinerator, and she still comes back, like really badly melted. Dolly's meant to be like, she's connected to a rail system that, much like every other antagonist, she rips herself off of to get to the player. So obviously those are like the three main bad guys, and they all get destroyed. Like, it's kind of weird. Like they are ceasing to function thanks to either their own haywire initiative. I can't read, bro. Their own like haywire initiative to kill Arnold, or the Mimic controlling them. Jackie loses her nose, has big like door dropped on her. She like gets crushed, like she's missing like all of her pieces. Big Top's jaw obviously breaks, and like, you know, he's like pretty badly injured. He destroys a lot of stuff. Dolly's given the Anakin Skywalker's treatment, as I like said, and like she's almost completely melted. She gets crushed by the elevator too. And like during the ending, just like a lot of animatronics are also shown like dying, burning, injured, like Mr. Helpful, which we'll talk about in a minute. But first we'll talk about the prototypes, because these are like the only fascinating animatronics in my eyes. We have like prototype of the original cast, and then we also have some Springlock suits, including Monty, which is very interesting that Monty was so like prevalent in this time period, considering we didn't hear about him until a security breach, you know. This game introduces the theoretical earliest designs of the FNAF cast. So when you think of like the spring animatronics I mentioned earlier, this is what you should actually think of. These are the prototypes, right? They are incredibly old. There's even metal Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, which, like, obviously William probably made a Stitch Spring Bonnie before this, but it's important to mention. The prototypes are in the development wing of the manor and are barely functional apart from the spring locks, which obviously they exist, you can wear them. This gives fans more information of Freddy's. It does like challenge the design of Glitchtrap, who is what we imagine Afton thinks he looks like in the Springlock suit. So like if this was the suit, then obviously no, that's weird. But I think it was a different suit before that. It's also, you know, I won't mention that, but it's proto-mimics. There's a bunch of little amalgamations that can attack Arnold near the end of the game. These are prototype versions of the Mimic, I think. They're in Edwin's home, and they have like a few different varieties as shown here. Not much is known about them. We don't even know if Edwin himself made them, or if they made each other, or if the Mimic made them, because the Mimic maybe mimicked Edwin, you know? They try to attack Arnold, even as like he's escaping. They attach to his car. We see a lot of them die during this, but maybe not all of them died. Maybe there's still some kicking around. Here's the mannequins. So these are like humanoid figures that don't move when being observed, at least. They each have like a speaker saying lines that a visitor might. They're like meant to represent the potential the MCM has to offer to convince investors to invest in Edwin's dream. They act as like a nuisance though, by making a noise and blocking the way throughout the game, especially in Big Top's section. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Helpful, which are voiced by Mr. and Mrs. Edwin Murray. No, sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Murray, Edwin Fiona. They guide the player through the tour that the investors were meant to go through. Obviously, they're like what later became Helpy. Like, yep, it's very, very obvious. They're attached to like some sort of mechanical arm, sort of similar to like the wacky inflatable arm floating tube men. You know, they get to like move around a lot. It's pretty cool. Like they're like a puppet. Speaking of puppets, here's the puppet crew. This is another part of the tour where like you get to shoot little things, you get to watch a puppet show. It's like the first appearance of Fox the Fox, as well as Roxanne Wolf even, with a little reference to her losing her eyes in the future with her having 2 eye patches. She even has bandages that resemble her like patterns. They do a little show, and Foxy's not the captain, he's actually first mate. So yeah, the puppet crew consists of first mate Foxy, Puppet Roxy, Kit, Boston, and Renard. I don't know which one of these is Boston or Renard. I'm assuming this one's Kit though. So we'll have a quick overview of the Springlock suits. There's a bunch of them in this game, but like, here's Bub and Pirate Captain. You get to enter Springlock suits. You know, Pirate Captain gets a gun actually to shoot things with, is pretty nice. The Mimic cannot kill the player when they're in the suit, so it sort of acts like the Glamrock Freddy of this game. The suits are usually used to drain power into the manor to unlock areas. Bub has specifically gotten interest, at least from what I've researched, because they kind of resemble Sparky in a way. So maybe this is like sort of the original design for Sparky until Sparky got rebranded. But since Sparky isn't really a canon character yet, we don't know. Here's Cleanovacs, my beloveds. So they're scattered throughout the manor and clean the floors. They're scattered throughout the MCM. They're adorable. They resemble the caution bots. They're obviously the original versions. They sweep up the floor and stuff. But they're like so adorable. They're not a threat. You can even pet them. This is predating the Mimic, so obviously parts of its coding and like maybe a body were repurposed to create the Mimic, along with the Digityper, which is the original version of the staff bot. They replace staff members. They have like a computer built into them maybe. They're on wheels so that they can be moved easily. They mail things around. That's why they have a mail thing. You can like see inside of him right here. You can see like he's like, that's kind of weird. Like he's so like advanced but also not advanced at the same time. Like they're trying hard to not be advanced when he's so advanced. We actually get to see Jackie like throw one of them against a wall, so they are obviously very breakable. But yeah, I think I like this design a lot. Now Sleepy Moon exists. As also referred to as Nightlight, from what I've seen. They reside deep in the basement of the MCM as like a hidden enemy. They somehow relate to the moon side of the Digger Dungeons somehow, but most of the clues suggest that this thing isn't like even the Mimic. This is something else entirely. It's like so mysterious. We know very little about it. They even mumble a lullaby when walking around, and they appear in the Moon.exe minigame for one of the endings, which I haven't done a lot of research on the Moon.exe minigame, so that's all I'm going to say. F10N4. Mimic 1, or F10N4, is the first Mimic program that became sort of motherly and a caretaker. She cared for Edwin's son David. Edwin eventually put M1 in a program after they told Edwin to make a robot to replace David after he had perished. Edwin used M1 to make M2, or David, or the Mimic we know and love hate. Once M2 went rogue, M1 sent instructions to protect the others from M2. This becomes the Mixes system later. Also, the sun-like design may be what the sun half of Digger Tundra is based on. So this is what it actually looks like. This is like a fan-made render. Obviously I misspelled Edwin here. So we're back to Stan's Budget Tech. Do you remember Pizzeria Sim? Remember I mentioned it? Well, Stan's Budget Tech is a company that stole Fiona Murray's designs and created them while Edwin was in mourning in their own company. Stan used to work for Murray's costume manor before stealing the designs for Candy Cadet and some of the mediocre melodies. So this entire company was probably bought out after they realized that they had stolen some of Edwin's designs, because I think Fazbear in general stole a lot of designs from Edwin. I think that's sort of what we're getting at. Recovery Team 12 is an interesting one. So Fazbear Entertainment did actually stand an extraction team to retrieve the mimic, among other things, from the costume manor. Except all of them died. All of their bodies are scattered throughout, stuffed in mascot costumes, long before William had the idea to do so to the children. So a few weren't stuffed actually, but were still dead, and one body is inside a locker that the player can actually find and open and get spooked by. They use slightly different models than Arnold's hands, but they wear the exact same outfit as each other, so that's how we know they're all related to each other. Trolley time! So there's an elevator in the MCM that has a face on it containing a small metal oil lamp. The trolley functions exactly like an elevator, allowing the player to access the ball toss game when you take it. The trolley obviously based off the kiddie rides you may find at carnivals or other amusement park things, you know. There's obviously bigger versions that that drop way farther, but this one's the code version obviously. And it has a clock at the top, hence the name being part of the name, hence the time being part of the name. And their style sort of fits the rest of the MCM, being old-timey and less vibrant colors than modern times. I don't know why I included trolley time, I just did. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Let's talk about various humans. So first we'll talk about missing children and the name Jeremy. So we know the names of a few of the victims of Afton, from this ending, obviously. As well as several other people who died in the series. So we know this is the main cast. This is the puppet up here. This is Golden Freddy. There's actually a few instances where people have the same name. As you already knew, there's a Jeremy Night Guard, and one of the kids is named Jeremy. There's also a Jeremy playtester. So I noticed this when MatPat told me this a few years ago in a video. He didn't tell me this. I watched a video. MatPat said this, where there's a point in time where Jeremy, the VR playtester, was playing as Jeremy, the Night Guard, who died to Jeremy, the missing child, inside of Bonnie. Except maybe it wasn't the missing child inside of Bonnie. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Here's Elizabeth Acton, Afton's daughter and youngest child, possibly. She might not be younger than the crying child, but we'll talk about what a sickness she is. She just obeyed her father, got too close to Zerg's baby, she died, she got scooped out. She possesses baby and she wants to make her father proud by following his footsteps, killing people. She's a good little daddy girl. She never really got the ability to grow out of her need for parental validation. And here's the crying child. We have no clue what the fuck his name is. It might be Evan, as some have guessed, but most likely not. It could also be Cassidy. We wouldn't know. His brother torments him relentlessly. The kid is traumatized for seeing things he was never meant to. AKA he saw a employee putting on a costume, and it traumatized him. Eventually his brother friends all pick him up, push him inside of Fredbear's mouth, in which case Fredbear bites down, kills the crying child. Crying child goes on to possess Golden Freddy as one of the two spirits. Afton promises to put his son back together. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Who knows? Whatever. One of Michael and Afton, the main guys, the protagonists, the original games. He goes with different pseudonyms to destroy various locations and his father's legacy. Maybe he originally was supposed to work with his father and betrayed him. Maybe he was always against his father. We don't know. All we know is that he was very abused. He was very weird in the movie. We'll talk about him later, but it's a bit different. But he actually gets scooped and becomes a walking corpse. He never truly stays dead, just like his father. He's the protagonist of the original games. The Pizza Sim, in which case he dies. He may still be around, possessing someone or something. But this is him in Sister Location. This is him in FNAF 4. He's one of the bullies. Speaking of the bullies, there's 3 other friends that like to wear masks to torment his brother. The other bullies don't have much significance and aren't mentioned often. However, the Bonnie bully may be an important character in more modern FNAF, being Cassie's dad and the technician Hub 1 and 2. Their existence supports the dream theory back in the day. The crying child had nightmares of his tormentors, literally. I am very intrigued about these two because we don't know much about them unless the books say something about them. But it's interesting because this one has glowing eyes. This one doesn't have glowing eyes. So I'm just wondering if we'll ever see these ones again, you know? Anyways, Charlie and Emily. They are theoretically the first victim of William Afton. They are locked outside of the FNAF 2 location when she gets killed by a heartbroken and possibly drunk Afton, and eventually possessing the marionette to give the other victims their rest. Charlie is also in the Civilized book trilogy as the main character who died as a child and was replaced by robots. Her father built, growing up and having a normal life until she revisited Freddy's. The possibly drunk refers to the fact that Afton goes to Junior's, which is a bar, and it's said he already got thrown out of it after he killed Charlie. So yeah, he probably got thrown out of a bar. He drove over to FNAF 2's location, killed Charlie, drove back to his house. here's Henry Emily. Henry Emily is the co-founder of Freddy's, and he was a brilliant engineer that we theorized saved Afton from bankruptcy and also partnered with him in hopes of creating more happiness for families. Henry Emily was honestly a good guy. He did not deserve what happened to him. He actually burned down the FNAF 6 location to put to rest Afton and his victims, as well as himself and his own daughter. He's the father of Charlie. He is really weird. In the books, he invents a robot to kill himself. It's so strange to me. Like, none of it makes sense, man. Speaking of none of it making sense, here's William Afton. The main antagonist of the series, William was a businessman who, after losing his child, became a murderer in search of immortality. He's killed plenty of children in various ways to try and understand how a soul can control an animatronic, to unlock the power of Remnant, and to become immortal, but eventually he paid the price, and he got stuck inside of his own spring lock suit. William's gone by many different names and pseudonyms, similar to Michael Afton. He went by Steve Raglan in the movie, and in the Silver Lies trilogy, he went by Dave Miller. My voice is obviously dying, as you can hear, but first we'll talk about Mrs. Afton. We know William was married, and he obviously had children. We know very little about his wife. The only appearance is potentially the Midnight Motorist games in the bottom right, you can see there, but we don't even know for sure if that's her. We do know that Afton built Ballora to resemble his wife, or at least take her place, since he was so wrapped up in his work and often neglected her and just wanted to torture himself probably once he left her, or she left her. She left him. God, I'm tired. Miss Afton perhaps is still alive at the top of Fazbear Entertainment. Maybe she's the one in control now. We don't know. But with the series still sucks. But if the Immortal and the Restless means anything, then it possibly means that she is still sticking by his side no matter what, and is in control of Fazbear Entertainment. So here's a quick mention of the FNAF movie. It has so many characters, mostly humans, that are new and also returning from the games. There's even cameos of FNAF fans and YouTubers such as Corey Kenshin and Matthew Patrick. I won't talk about Corey Kenshin more, but we'll talk about Matthew Patrick later. But Corey Kenshin just is a taxi driver. He also appears in the FNAF 2 movie. As previously mentioned, the movie references Sparky and even a suit that represents a Fazbear Frights book character. I'll talk about them later as well. There's a variety of original human characters, such as Doug the Lawyer, who's like a fan favorite. He even has a U2s to make the movie seem more realistic. Behind the scenes, the crew even nicknamed one of the endoskeleton props Tina, which I'm going to choose as low relevant because I like Tina the endoskeleton. Here's Arnold, my boy. He's just arms. He's armored. He worked for Fazbear Entertainment, and he's dragged into Murray's costume owner for a simple job, promised a gift card as a reward. Though throughout the game, he trusts his dispatch less and less, because dispatch wasn't real, and we learn that once the end of the game comes. He displays many skills with old equipment, though it's probably new to him. And he ends up getting tricked by the Mimic through the entire game, and he dies in at least 2 of the endings, maybe all of them, I don't know. But anyways, here's Edwin Murray. Edwin is a talented and rich inventor, making a variety of home products using his mechanical and robotic skills. Edwin eventually teams with Fazbear Entertainment to make some money, but after creating the Mimic, his son dies. This causes Edwin to go to a dark place and accidentally teaches the Mimic aggression and pain. He's married to Fiona Murray, who also appears in Secret of the Mimic as a pre-recorded voice to guide the player. Speaking of Fiona Murray, here's Fiona Murray. Edwin's deceased wife, a puppeteer that worked for him until they fell in love. She saw through the cracks in the company and knew bad things were going to happen. In the books, she really had no role, and she just died straight after giving birth. But in the games, she actually has done some serious stuff. She's an inventor herself. She's very smart. She's caring. I just realized David has the White Tiger plushie. I don't have a David slide, but cool. Theoretically, the mimic her mentally personality. Fiona also has a digital consciousness put in a computer and becomes mixes, I guess. I'm still very confused about all this. The new lore is very hard for me to understand. Quick mention of Into the Pit. There's an official FNAF game based off of one of the first FNAF books called Into the Pit. You play as Oswald the Kid, whose dad is replaced by the Yellow Rabbit, aka Pit Trap. The Yellow Rabbit is more monstrous than robotic, lacking in most human-like traits, and almost seems like a demon or monster in this game. I love how he's almost drawn completely different in each instance. He's so creepy. I think it's one of the best versions of Springtrap. You can see his skin already through the thing. It's so cool. There's so many humans in this game. Won't name all of them, obviously. I could list them out. I won't do that yet. But first, we'll talk about missing children. I'm just going to go over the missing children now. I haven't said their names out loud, really. But we know that there were 5 missing children in the Phantom location, at least. There was Fritz, Jeremy, Susie, and Gabriel. The last one we'll go over on the next slide, but they're all important. As you can probably infer, their bodies were hidden inside the main animatronics because, of course, no one would check there. You only get to see or play these characters when they are already dead, except for Susie, which has a minigame, Fruit Maze, which you get to like sort of see what happened. Susie died first, except for Charlotte, and the rest followed, with the last being the vengeful spirit, the one he should not have killed. Cassidy was brutally murdered by Afton, much more messy and horrific than the others. And a new theory recently that I've heard is that she was put inside of Golden Freddy alive, and the spring locks killed her, which would explain like the more violent demise, and why like she sort of made Afton get spring locked himself. This makes her like much more angry than the others, and like purposefully keeps William alive after Pizzeria's him just for revenge and like a personal hell. Cassidy may also still be around. We don't really know. She didn't like to move on. She also shared the Golden Freddy suit with Afton's kid, but that's up in the air. We'll talk about the Vengeful Spirit actually again pretty soon. But first, let's talk about Phone Guy again. We actually learned his name was Ralph in the books. We don't have like a render of him still, but we know that he appears canonically in order in FNAF 3, then FNAF 2, then FNAF 1, and then in UCN as a dead guy. He's still very dead. He's still voiced by Scott Cawthon. Just had to mention his name was Ralph. We have a Choose Your Own Adventure book where he actually does, I think, still die in every single thing. I could be wrong, but you know, dies in different ways. First, here's merchandise. It's important enough, I guess, but merchandise in general is like varying quality with like many different companies having official merch. The companies that have official merch are U2's, Sanchi, Funko, Hex, and Jazz Wares. The designs are always a one-to-one recreation of the official material, and going over every single variation would be too daunting. But basically, there are figures, plushies, clothing, and various miscellaneous items for sale that aren't bootlegs or knockoffs. I will definitely not go over bootleg or knockoff merch, as there is so fucking much, and I do not endorse it. Do not buy knockoffs. Check where you're buying from. First, we'll go over the blacklight animatronics. These are like the most well-known merchandise, I think, animatronics, really. There's multiple versions of these characters. They glow under UV light. They are actually only found in merchandise, but somewhere in development, Help Wanted 1, they were going to be in the hard mode of Showtime. But characters with variants include Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Cupcake, Balloon Boy, Puppet, Endo, Golden Freddy, and the Glam Rocks, as well as Rockstar Freddy, and a few of the toys. Like you can see here, basically all of them. Obviously, these renders are unofficial, but all these are the characters that have blacklight variants. I didn't post any Glamrock ones, but there are Glamrock variants as well. Next is Dark Springtrap, which doesn't fucking exist, but there is a cutscene with the dark lighting where Springtrap just like kind of walks on screen. And for some reason, this single cutscene inspired merch, and it even got its own logbook entry, which the logbook is a really stupid piece of media, anyways. But it's literally just the lighting. It's just fucking normal Springtrap. Like the only difference is that Scott accidentally deleted a piece of the fucking model. That's the only fucking difference, and they don't even include that. But here's a quick overview of plushies. I just like plushies. They're really cute. There's many licensed ones. They're like relatively faithful to the base material, but like obviously you can look at these guys. You can't get all the detail you can. But like they have poor proportions, really less details. If you want to see really good versions of plushies, there's a good like YouTube series about redesigning Funko's FNAF plushies. I forget the YouTuber's name, but it's really cool. You should check that out if you're a FNAF fan, if you've watched this far. I used to own this Nightmare Freddy one, so it's very special to me. Here's the tie-dye characters. The real bottom of the barrel like stuff. The tie-dye characters are like really bad. Like they are the ugliest FNAF merch. Like sometimes some of them, specifically Bonnie and Chica, have similar colors to the originals, and Springtrap too, but he looks like moldy cheese. But like they just look so ugly. They're even uglier than knockoffs. Like I'm convinced these are knockoffs, but they're real. These are real things. They're not knockoffs. But first, let's go over FNAF AR merch. As shown in here, there's some characters that were teased but never gone into FNAF AR. Mainly Chocolate Freddy and Chocolate Chica. There's maybe other ones similar to this, but I can only find these. But I'd imagine there definitely is some other like FNAF AR merch that probably was never released. Like, I don't know if this is Frostbear, but this doesn't look like Frostbear. This looks like an unreleased thing to me. Obviously, all of the stuff is not the greatest, but it's all right. You know, they likely function similarly to the originals and are based like off skins such as these. You know, they're just skins. They're obvious. I do like how all of them have bites taken out of them, though. I think that's good attention to detail. But first, we have Golden Springtrap or Games Springtrap. It's an unreleased Funko figure that was Springtrap colored gold. There's a reason this is unreleased, as it's not very original or very necessary, but that didn't stop people from wanting it. The concept of golden characters throughout FNAF have always been really important because people just really like Golden Freddy. So yeah, people made a lot of versions, models, and renders and more based off Golden Springtrap, and I think there's been much more because of this than because there wasn't. I mean, I didn't know about this, but I bet at least one of you did if you're watching this far. Here's the balloon animatronics. So imagine the main cast, but like Balloon Boy. Like they each have colors and outfits matching Balloon Boy, and it came with Circus Foxy and Circus Freddy as well. So like Freddy literally has Balloon Boy colors, but like as you can see, they all have like slightly different colors. They're really adorable. Actually, it's a fixed Foxy. I just noticed the merchandise has one. But yeah, I do like how their colors actually do match for once. Now this is a really interesting one, where these are the stitched animatronics. Imagine the main cast, but like evil stitched puppet things. They are only featured as stickers, and there's no other official depictions of them. And I think that's funny, so I included it. People speculate these were maybe going to appear in like a spin-off like Fury's Rage, but they could also just be like references to the FNAF 4 Nightmare animatronics, as well as the plushies in that FNAF 4, you know? The Hex plushies are kind of like the closest things to these designs, and like they're not even that close. They're just the closest thing I can think of. Because like these just are such cool designs. I think these should appear in like one of the spin-offs. Here's a lot of holiday animatronics. Surprisingly, there's a lot that aren't in AR. But there's like Santa Freddy, Elf Bonnie, Chica Snowman, Gingerbread Foxy, and like Nutcracker Foxy too. Like they've only appeared in merch, but like they have multiple merch appearances. Like these are relatively popular ones. And there's like a Santa version of every character, but I didn't include them. So now we're gonna go over like different models. What this means basically is like different eras of the game. So for an example, here's Scott's renders. These are like the most well-known models. When you think of FNAF, you think of Scott's renders of the game. They were designed to specifically be seen from the way you see them. Like you can't fly around like you can in Security Breach. You will see what Scott gives you, and like that's why they're so creepy. They're like designed this way. There's like multiple errors, obviously, like some characters floating, some characters like having parts missing, clipping, but it has a charm to it that modern FNAF will never have, I don't think. There's also only like 2-ish humans that Scott has ever modeled that are in the FNAF series, and one is the corpse inside Springtrap and one's the corpse inside Scraptrap. And obviously Scraptrap's design people really don't like, but like I think it has its charm because it's the only Scott human, and we know Scott's humans design just kind of look like that because we've seen Scott's old animations from his YouTube channel. If you haven't seen them yet, I recommend just like go watch at least one of them so you at least know where he comes from, because it's kind of funny. Now Steel Wool renders, I still love them. Like they're the company behind modern FNAF, so they have big shoes to fill. But like with the VR games, Security Breach and City of the Mimic, they are really good at like modeling. I love their models, at least with high graphic settings. Obviously the textures are pretty smeared and bad on low settings, but I think the games honestly look amazing. I love Glitchtrap's design. Specifically, I think it's a great example to point at. I like the Mimic M2's design. I like Music Man's design. You know, some people don't like modern FNAF, which is very fair, but I think that the designs, at least in the, like the design department and the modeling, and, like the renders, it's not perfect, but it can rival Scott's. I think they are beautiful, and I love them so much. This is like we're no longer in mechanic or lore. We're just in it looks cool. But here's more it looks cool. So Illumix, which is the company behind FNAF AR, took the models as inspiration and made them shinier. So the reason behind this, at least in lore to me, would be mass production. Since in lore, people are ordering things to their house. So Fazbear Entertainment just has to crank them out quickly. They have to like remake 1 million endoskeletons. They have to remake 1 million Freddys, right? So I think the lighting and like their like the designs like fit really well in the environments that you can have in FNAF AR. Obviously not anymore since it's dead, but some of them are pretty bad, like Deep Sea Barrendo, which fucking sucks. But I think a good thing to point out is the trailers for this game. The trailers for FNAF AR are beautiful. I love the FNAF AR trailers. The animation's incredible. I love FNAF AR's like trailers and like models, but obviously the game was kind of ass. Here's an honorable mention. So Splinks uploaded these models in early 2015. I could be wrong, but I think this was Splinks' models. I think there maybe was a different name tied to these, but I'm gonna say they're Splinkses. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But this is basically the early days of the fandom. These are the models you saw. These are the ones that everyone used, and I love these things. These are my childhood. These are the ones I remember. They've obviously been updated since. They've been updated many times. He made ones for FNAF 2. He made ones for FNAF 3. But people use these models for like many animations, many fan games, and many drawings. So these ones will always forever be a part of the game. As for the film adaptations, they're not completely faithful, but I fucking love them. Look at this. Look at them. Look at yeah. Given the restraints of reality, the team behind the like animatronics and suits in this movie were out of this world, out of the park. It's so good. The lighting too. Oh my god, the VHX and oh my god, it's all so good. The originals are soft and covered in fur with less movement, and the newer plastic toys are so shiny and beautiful. Oh my god, they're so cool. They have realistic damage. The one complaint is lack of screen time, bro. These guys had like 3 minutes of screen time in the entire movie. Oh yeah, 8-bit characters. So throughout the series, there are like many mini games, and I mean many, as well as just like renders and like other things, where there's just 8-bits or there's pixelated graphics, right? So these 8-bit versions of characters have less detail, which makes it harder to understand what you're even looking at. Like, is this Golden Freddy? I don't know. I'm assuming so. But like, there's only a few characters that are found in 8-bit games, like Shadow Puppet and Shadow Balloon Boy, right? So it's just really upsetting. I get it's intentional for multiple reasons. So like, it makes it feel like an older game, so it's more retro. And as well, it makes it unsettling and jarring from regular gameplay. That way it sticks out more, right? So 8-bit minigames and cutscenes are actually included in minigames, including FNAF 2, 3, 4, Sister Location, FNAF World, Security Breach, Help Wanted, and Secret Link. There might be more, I didn't check very hard. I like 8-bit characters, but they do make me very angry with how hard it can be to decipher what they mean sometimes. This is the first dishonorable mention. Why do these models exist? Do we really need this? Whatever. Here's the book versions of the characters. I like them. Alright? For two-dimensional versions, the Silver Eyes trilogy does incredibly faithful depictions of the characters. They have their own art style, so obviously they have their own twist on things. And like obviously since the story is different, you know, Springtrap's gonna look different, Baby's gonna look different, but it works. It looks good. Since they're described differently, they look different. You know, it is what it is. The characters on the cover, however, usually like just perfectly resemble the counterpart. I didn't put a cover on here, but you know what I mean. Like the covers obviously resemble. Like the FNAF Silver Eyes is Freddy, the Twisted Ones is Nightmare, Fourth Closet's Funtime Freddy. All right. And here's the extra unorganized stuff. This will be basically almost 40 slides of just me yapping about things that I forgot to add already. First, there's Fazbear Entertainment in general. This is the main company behind everything. The early days are a bit debatable, but we know that Henry and William were co-owners, maybe co-founders. I think maybe one of them founded it, but who knows. The company has died multiple times, or at least come really close, and it either was like brought back, or like something. We don't really know, but all I know is the current Fazbear is not afraid to murder people to keep their record clean. And throughout the entire company, and throughout all its brands, things are happening that are sinister and evil. But first, let's talk about the FNAF 2 movie, which came out, obviously, while I was making this. The FNAF 2 movie takes place in the same universe as the first, introducing the first movie, I should add, introducing the FNAF 2 characters in new ways. The movie confirms this is the original location, it confirms the Withers were prototypes, and also introduces many versions of the puppet. The puppet leans. Look at them, they're so cute and adorable. Once again, I'm going to gush over these renders. I love them so much. They're so cute. So here's the more about the FNAF movie. I loved it so much, I want to talk about it more. The puppet is seen with a new ability to possess people, and the soul behind the marionette, aka Charlotte, is the only child who died in the original location, which is very interesting, and they control actually everyone in the original location. Balloon Boy is actually more dangerous, as he shines a bright light and like is really loud, and like almost like chops up Michael in the water. Charlotte's goal is to get revenge on parents in general for failing her, since they just watched her get stabbed basically. And the movie has a really shit ending, with Vanessa being possessed, and Michael Afton in the movie is evil, which I think is very interesting to think, and is related to Vanessa. This is Transparent Chica. In the FNAF 2 movie, Abby made a project, failed, but Toy Chica helps her create this, a small, transparent FNAF 1 era Chica. It's battery powered and has several points of articulation. Spoilers, Abby's teacher destroys it, and it completely shatters. It's like really shit material. It doesn't make sense. I can only find this picture of it online, but like I have so many questions. Like, why normal Chica and not Toy Chica if she's the one that helped make it? And how did Toy Chica even help Abby? How did Abby make this? Where did they get the materials from? It makes no sense. We have a few more FNAF movie characters. From the first one, we have Torture Freddy, or Shreddy Fazchair, as some fans call him, which is the first on-screen death in the first movie. With the weird torture device, we see it's like an unnamed night guard dies in it. He like tries to escape by unscrewing a thing, but he fails. But Mike unscrews it later. So it's pretty good. The head is like moldy and old. Like it's like, look at this. It's like faded from like discoloration. It's got like blood stains and stuff on it. I think it's designed so that the animatronics can just put people in it for an easier kill, since like they move really slowly and like are forced to ambush and teleport to kill people. Because like obviously the animatronics are very strong, they could bite even half, but this sort of makes it so they don't have to run at you. It doesn't make sense to me. They should really just like not have it. Like it's kind of weird. You can escape it really easily if you're not panicking. So this is the FNAF movie Ella. Ella is from the books, I believe, but in the movie, there's a spring-lock suit resembling her. Abby's almost pushed into the suit by Chica, as the animatronics want to make Abby like them to keep her forever and play with them. Vanessa actually warns about the suit earlier in the movie, and she snaps a broom with it with the spring locks. And their inclusion is interesting, but the concept of a child being spring locked may be a hint towards the in-game lore. Cassidy, hello. And here we have Functional Foxy, which is thanks to a very short scene in the movie. A Foxy suit without any damage was created. I actually don't even know if it was in the movie, but as you can see, I'm gonna include it. The pants aren't torn, the legs aren't torn, he has no hole in his chest, he has a hook still, he's still got gold teeth, but like, you know, he's adorable. I don't even know if this actually is him, but like, I think it is. It's just a shame that functional Foxies that aren't out of order are barely anywhere in the series, because I really like seeing this character brings more realism to series and makes the out of order Foxy scarier, while he himself is like a bit less scary, you know? I think it's a good thing. I think like you should see like a functional Foxy and like in a game, and like later he becomes Withered or something. Quick honorable mention is Candy the Cat, or also Sugar the Cat. Back in the day, Scott Cawthon, fake Scott Cawthon accounts actually posted about Sugar the Cat, making them a hoax similar to Sparky. This one's Sugar, by the way. This one's Candy. Sugar and Candy are like rather similar design-wise, and they both appear in fan games, but Candy is a part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, which I will talk about later. Scott is helping game developers make bigger and better games, but an arcade cabinet in the FNAF 2 movie references Candy, so that's why I'm talking about them. And Sugar was also called Wolfie the Wolf back in the day, so I'm going to mention that just because when I was doing my research, that's what I found. Oops, I went the wrong direction. Now we're here with my boy, Dead by Daylight Springtrap. He was chosen to be put in Dead by Daylight with a pizza knife and axe as the weapons of choice. He can jump scare people and uses the Freddy torture device on people too. His model has he's fully modeled. He has a fully modeled corpse inside of him, and it's like contorted in a smile. It's so good. He's got a variety of skins too, such as Glitch Trap, the movie Matthew Lillard. He has some AR skins like Toxic and Clown. He's got more original ones coming soon. What's the original one? Blighted Springtrap. I love this skin. It's the original Dead by Daylight skin. The blight is like a sort of infection thing in the universe, and Springtrap gets it, dude. His mask is ripped open, destroyed. The corpse inside seems to be trying to escape, or is like in immense pain. You could see his bone, not even in the hand anymore. Springtrap is still Springtrap at the end of the day, so he's probably going to be the same sadistic man, if not even more evil, with the blight. But as I'm writing this, and as I'm speaking this, I think it's unreleased. I could be wrong. I don't play Dead by Daylight. 5 Laps at Freddy's. So it's an early access spin-off game, which hopefully will get released eventually in multiplayer. Where you have to play as a variety of animatronics. I don't know the full list, but they have different stats to race, because they have different cars. The designs are more cartoonish, with Wallbit having the biggest redesign, as you can see here. It's only single player right now, but the only like really new character is Endo Wolf up here, which jump scares the player if they run out of battery, and it's a possible relation to like Twisted Wolf or Roxy. But some of the other kart racing games, there's different items that you can use that reference things in FNAF, such as the Cupcake and the Faz Blaster. Did you know there's a Roblox FNAF game? In 2023, a game called FNAF Survival Crew was released in beta on Roblox. It was confirmed by the studio behind it that it was official. It was then put in private and was going to open for more testing later. However, its page was removed sometime in January 2026, I was told. It is said that it is going to be remade from scratch, however there isn't much information in the game, besides some gameplay videos online, which I will not watch them. It may be cancelled, we'll see. We don't know. Here's the Twisted Ones, the middle book of the series. It's a few animatronics similar in design to the Nightmares, called the Twisted Ones. They use illusion discs to look monstrous, and they seem organic even. They're made to kill humans with spring locks, along with the main 4. Twisted Wolf is in there for some reason. Without the discs, they appear deteriorated and less alive. So this is sort of their design. According to the books, this is their design according to everything else. Yeah. Here we have Twisted Wolf. So I'm gonna mention him a bit more because he's like the first wolf in the entire franchise. So I give him like a lot of importance because wolves obviously have gone a lot more popular as we've gone on throughout the franchise. Unless the one in UCN was the first, but I think UCN was. I don't know when the Twisted One's released, but all I know is that Twisted Wolf is pretty damn important because he's a poster in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, which means that like there's something going on with Twisted Wolf. Twisted Wolf is something here, right? He's a mixture of animalistic and organic parts, and animatronic parts. Like he's animalistic but also animatronic. But he's still just an illusion. But I still think he's very interesting. I think he's the most popular Twisted by far. Now we have the blue Springlock suit. In one of the books, Carlton, which is one of the main human characters, is forced into a Springlock suit by a purple guy. We know very little about the suit, and mostly it was an unfinished or unpainted Freddy or Bonnie. But since we don't know for sure, people think it's a beaver, because people really like beavers for some reason. Carlton lives, I think, the suit snapping seconds after he leaves. So like, I think he actually does get hit by one of the spring locks, but then he manages to like get out right before all the spring locks go off right at once. So now here's the Fazbear Frat series. I can't talk right now. I'm so tired. We're almost done, right? Yeah, totally. Don't look at that. Each book contains 3 stories with a separate snippet of a longer story through them all. These books introduce new humans, new animatronics, and even newish designs for old animatronics. But the main antagonist is the Stitch Wraith throughout the little snippets we get each book. This isn't technically a new character. It's more like a reimagined Ennard and Golden Freddy combined, which contains like multiple souls. Don't worry about him. Tales from the Pizzaplex is another series that came after Fazbear Frights. They're like a rerun with modern FNAF. This introduces more characters for the first time, including our first detailed information on the Mimic and their creation, as well as Tiger Rock and the Storyteller. There's also another interactive novel that plays through the events of Security Breach ruined in book form. So we've talked about 2 of the interactive novels so far. There's 4 in total. Return to the Pit is the only not mentioned one. It's the same as Into the Pit, only now it's interactive. You die a lot in it. I choose to believe that since there are multiple canons in the series, everything in these books is canon. So every single choice you make is canon in a different timeline. That's obviously a theory, because I don't know them. But the last interactive novel is Very Informative Pig. The VIP is a pig that forces a kid to do things in order to set their younger brother free. The kid has won a prize, which got him into this mess, hence why the pig shares a name with the real meaning of VIP. Instead of it meaning very important person, there's Very Informative Pig. He doesn't resemble other pigs in the series very much, but there is a possible relation to Pigpatch since they're both pigs. There is another VIP, which I will mention in the 37 notable book characters. There's Charlie, Emily, John, Jessica, Carlton, Burke, Marla, Jason, Lamar, Sammy, Emily, Michael, Brooks, Suicide Bot, Fetch, Lonely Freddy, Chaser, Plushtrap, Ella, Ralpho, Tagalong Freddy, Coils, Lucky Boy, Faraday, Sea Bonnies, Rosie Porkchop, Kids That Play Figures, Felix the Shark, Eleanor, The Man in Room 1280, Lally Haps, B7 Entity, Dream Sphere Moon, Water Park Animatronics, Bobby Dot Home Assistants, which is 3 of them, I think, Nexi, Nanobots, Brownwind Light, Copelia, Dave, and Virtual Informative Pig. So here's also the Vengeful Spirit, Andrew. So it's debatable if Andrew or Cassie's the Vengeful Spirit, because in the books, it's Andrew. It's essentially the same. He's half the Stitch Wraith, which is Golden Freddy in the books, as we said, and is the antagonist of many stories. He's associated with the crocodile mask he wore, and he torments the man in room 1280, which is Billy Knapp. And he keeps him alive, forcing the nurses to not kill him. And he even affects other animatronics and toys with his rage, as he's the one William shouldn't have killed. So yeah, actually the first time he appears, it might be in the Happiest Day minigame, where we see this kid who has a crocodile mask. But obviously, since he's an 8-bit, we don't fucking know, do we? So here's the beta testers, aka Vanessa's debut. There's 2, there's maybe 3, because I forgot that the Tissette girl might be different than Vanessa. But there's Vanessa, Jeremy, and Tape Girl. We know that Jeremy cut off his own face in order not to be used by Afton, and died. So that leaves 2. Through the tapes, we learned Vanessa wasn't so lucky. The Dreadbear DLC confirms this when we put the mask on. Somehow Vanny might not be the Tape Girl, though. I speak for everyone when I say this is peak FNAF. Like, we thought the series was over with FNAF 6, right? Then we come back with Help Wanted, and we get some really cool lore drops. We get excited for Vanny, and then we get really disappointed because Vanny is nothing. It's a nothing burger. But yeah, let's talk about Help Wanted a bit more. There is nothing that tells us about the player character in Help Wanted. I found a Reddit thread that does have a theory, and this is all I can really say. At the end of Help Wanted, we know the player sees a birthday cake with 7 candles, meaning they possibly are 7 years old. We also know that this child must grow up a little bit before the events of security breach, since the Pizzaplex is still being worked on. Possibly it's Gregory, but probably not. Though I do like that theory. I do like that little bit of theory. Now it's time for Fazbear Technician. So this is the player character in Help Wanted 2. Throughout the game, there are hints to who they are. Carney says you look like you have kids, to saying it looks familiar to a Bonnie mask. People think this is Cassie's father, and the Bonnie mask kid who is friends with Michael. We have no physical traits or dialogue apart from the Bonnie mask observation. They literally die. Either they possess the mask bot, or they are trapped in the machine by Vanny. So, more Dream Theory stuff. This is the FNAF 4 kids you see in the minigames throughout FNAF 4. The crying child talks to these kids around the neighborhood. They all know him, they all know it's his birthday, but obviously they resemble the past and future characters. We have Balloon Boy here. We have Circus Baby. At least somewhat. I think this is Circus Baby. We have kind of Ballora, kind of Springtrap. The heart's a bit odd. Obviously the toy animatronics kind of here. And kind of Freddy. I don't know what this guy's supposed to do, but he just kind of sits there. They aren't really important anymore. They definitely supported Dream Theory back in the day, but they no longer do they? Because Dream Theory is no longer canon. But they did mention Dream Theory in the movie. Here's the most honorable mention, Matthew Patrick. Sans is Ness, and so was Matt Pat in the FNAF movie. That's his character's name, it's Ness. He works at Sparky's Diner. His theory is that lunch is the most important meal of the day. Possibly he's involved with Toy Bonnie since Matt Pat voiced him in the movie, but he doesn't. Also, forgot to mention this, Megan Fox voices Toy Chica. I should have said that earlier, but there you go, you have that now. Matt Pat has the channel Game Theory on YouTube, and was a popular FNAF theorist, paving the way for future theorists in Pat's life. He's sort of retired now, but mostly he's just taking a back seat. He still does stuff, he still appears. He's a great guy. I love him so much. I think he's doing politics now. Now here's the crazy indie developer. He's not actually Scott Cawthon. He's Sneeve Snodgrass in the books, but he parallels Scott Cawthon because in Help Wanted, we learned that all the previous games were fabrications, over-exaggerations of what really happened, made by a lunatic. This lunatic was actually paid by Fazbear or brainwashed by Fazbear Entertainment. We don't know if their games are the ones we play in real life, but we can assume so. Their fate isn't certain, but in the books, Sneeve Snodgrass gets killed as a cover-up after he finishes making his games. I still love this fucking Discord thing I found. So this is the day shift guy, or guys. We don't really know much about the people on day shift, apart from a few things. In FNAF 2, they worked the night shift before us and survived. And we, at least Jeremy Fitzgerald, does also work the day shift and dies still. We also are led to assume that it's a possibility that William Afton is among the day shift workers, or maybe is the only day shift security around, which would make his murders easier to prepare and easier to take out, you know? We don't know, that's just a theory. But here's the Fazbear Fanverse. So the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative was a project created by Scott himself for game developers to make officially endorsed FNAF spin-offs. Some series associated with the project include Pop Goes, Five Nights at Candy's, and The Joy of Creation. Many others were considered, but some didn't make the cut, and some that did make the cut have since been cancelled, such as FNAF Plus. Yeah, I won't talk about that. I won't talk about the other ones. It's just really cool. We have The Joy of Creation here. I really like them. I like this fan art a lot. I don't know who made this fan art. I hope this is your watermark. I hope you get credit. I hope you see this and get credit. I hope you kill me. I hope you sue me for all I'm worth. Here's Bear 5. It's a fan character, originated from a random tweet in 2022, but he's my favorite. He has his own series of Bear 5 games. Not really, just part of the joke. He has his own cast of friends and characters where they kill you. If you want to learn more about him, please check out this Reddit thread. Since his debut, he has made appearances in multitudes of fan content, fan games, and even unrelated projects nothing to do with FNAF. I know about him in Outcome Memories, where he's a private killer, private instance killer. It's pretty cool. He kills you instantly. A quick overview of amalgamations. Throughout the series, amalgamations have been like plagued with ever since Sister Location, really. Even before then, because there was fan-made hoaxes of the toy box from FNAF 3, because we didn't know what it was about. We thought it was an amalgamation somehow. But Scott Cawthon at least has like always been interested in like combining different animatronics, which is why we have Ennard, that's why we have Molten, that's why we have Tangle, and that's why in the novel trilogy we have this monstrosity. As for modern FNAF, obviously I have no fucking clue if it has any relevance, but obviously I think it has some relevance. It definitely has relevance in the olden days, because Candy Cadet talked about it, the books talked about it, everything was talking about combining Remnant, combining things. But yeah, I just think amalgamations are pretty important, they're pretty cool. Moving on, this is Buff Helpy. Okay, bye Buff Helpy. Here's Gummy Bear. So Scott Cawthon's adopted son, Gummy Bear, is a candy version of Freddy, who was bitten in 1989 by the crying child. This would go down as the Bite of '89 incident. Gummy Bear then went on to possess a human and died in a car crash later that day, never being seen in the series again. We don't know the lore significance of this yet, but he's like chopped AF though. Like look at this guy. Look how fucking chopped he is. God damn. Anyways, quick overview of hoaxes. Throughout FNAF's existence, people have made up characters that aren't real. Couldn't be me though. The first popular one was Sparky, but since then many more high effort and low effort ones have appeared. As games have become closer to modern times, hoaxes unfortunately are less prevalent, and it's a real shame. Mostly these characters are popular if they make some sense of the time, like Toy Golden Freddy, Nightmare JJ, things like that make sense. Maybe even Phantom Bonnie a little bit. Others grow in popularity during a game's trailer phase, like the amalgamation or salvage in FNAF 3. Cupcake adjacent things. So yeah, there are many things that take the place of Cupcake or look similar enough. Mr. Cupcake or Carl have a few versions himself, but ultimately they are important still. However, the jack-o'-lantern is interesting as it appears on your desk harmlessly in FNAF 1. Yeah, it kills you in Halloween in FNAF 4. Also a few food characters with eyes like the Mr. Chicken, Mr. Shake, and Mr. Burger. I don't know if they're a Mr. in front of them, I just say that. I don't list every cupcake, but I know there's like a Toy, Funtime, Nightmare, Golden, Shadow, Giant, and Glamrock cupcake. And there's obviously the AR skins, which I showed you earlier, so that's probably all the cupcakes I would know. Quickly, we'll talk about Edwin's inventions. Edwin invented many things, including sentient robots, obviously. His list of inventions include the Stay-Up Latte, Murray's Magic Coat Rack, Cleanovac, Vacuum Pet, Singing Mycelium Med, Just Cereal, Stage Helper AI, Digityper, Mr. and Mrs. Helpful, the Mimics, and Mixes. Each invention helped him create those future ones, or in cases of the Mixes, it was designed to stop an invention, aka the Mimic. As we discussed, his wife also invented many things, or at least designed a lot of things, having some things like the video melodies stolen by a rogue employee who then invented them instead of, it's whatever. But there's the end. It's over. you did it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want. I don't care.